at the end of the day, vulnerability is the key now, especially as Arab men, because most of the time when they present us or they talk about us, we're either dead, or we're angry, or we're fighting. There's no positive imagery. So
it's important to bring that through ourselves.
Yeah,
in the music
man,
and
because
the art.
we're lovers, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out Abdul Halim, you know what I mean? Our fathers were lovers. They were just brokenhearted. We were shooting a GQ magazine that was about Iraq and the creatives in Iraq. But
you were on the cover.
On the cover, yeah.
Come on, man, don't just gloss over that, boy.
In the media studies program, I was going to the studio. I was learning how to make music and how to engineer. So I would go to class. We'd learn about politics. I would go to media studies. We'd learn about what we're watching in the news, and then I'd go to the studio and translate it into music. We're the first generation witnessing a genocide that we pay for while using phones that benefit from a genocide in the Congo. How do you reconcile these juxtapositions? Yeah. And what do we do?
Yeah.
We're in it's like they call it the Matrix, but we're in the Matrix. We're plugged in so deep that we're feeding into the problem.
But once you realize that you're in the Matrix, then you realize that
then you're Andrew Tate.
You're
either Neo or Andrew Tate. You can never use the master's tools against the master.
I think we are.
No, but you can. But at the end of the day, the tricknology of that is that you can never dismantle the master's house with his tools. You can't. Audre Lorde said it.
It's happening right now. I'm going to give you a little pushback.
Tell me.
Because
pushback is a very podcast word, by the way.
I know, right?
As a media theorist, the curse of technology is that when you feed people your dead bodies, it doesn't make it better. People get used to seeing you dead. Just like they do with black people. You know, one thing about planet Earth is we're never going to get justice for what they've done to our people. Iraq is beautiful, bro. They try to destroy Iraq on purpose. So in the destruction of our countries, they attempted to rewrite our history. Right. But until I touched the ground and literally swam in the Euphrates River, I was like, oh, there's history here that we don't have here in America, bro. Because when they hung Saddam, they didn't kill Saddam. They deleted the history that he knows. If we accept violence being done to our people, then violence is going to be done upon other people, and that's not acceptable anymore. And you guys are using your platform right now.
Yeah.
You're interviewing people from the community, and we're having these conversations.
Yeah.
Nobody else is, bro.
Yeah.
Nobody else is having these honest, critical conversations about media literacy and injustice. And who is? Joe Rogan's not having these conversations.
Right.
But Joe Budden hasn't said shit about Palestine.
Yeah.
And Joe Budden is rage against the machine. You know, and inshallah khair, all you could do is just keep your head down, look out for the people around you. Listen to Habibi House, subscribe, follow the YouTube page.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
It's got to be more united.
Habibi House.
I'm the only member of Bald Gang here right now, so.
I thought you were going to rock the.
I was going to. You guys have a kafia? I'll rock, but I have headphones.
You had the red and the.
Yeah. I was gonna do it, but then I didn't want to go too hard.
That's all we do here, man. Narcy doesn't want to go too hard. What?
No, I got things to say. They gotta see my head.
You want to see the vein? Just
When I get stressed.
Yeah, man. You got a legend in the building today. Bro, stop dampening the. Go ahead.
Yo, what up? Welcome to episode 13 of the Habibi House, the Arab American podcast. And we have a very special guest today, a legend.
Man, we got a legend in the building today. I know I said that about Disaster, but this is just another legend.
We only bring legends.
Facts. Man, we're so excited to have him.
Narcy,
The
Nars.
narcissist himself, man,
What's going on? Assalamu alaikum.
in the studio.
Where did the name come from?
Alaikum assalam.
AKA French Canadian Montana in the house.
Oh, oui, Québécois.
I mean, the name probably came from when I was 16.
Oh, yeah?
And we used to joke around when we first started rapping where it was like, yo, I love myself, you know what I mean? It's almost like a tongue-in-cheek rapper thing.
Yeah.
Because most rappers don't love themselves
Right.
properly.
Right.
So, and then when I moved to Canada, it just became the name I was using when I was doing ciphers and people would react to it.
Yeah.
So it just became a good name to kind of move with.
Okay.
And then I think about 8 years into my career,
So you changed to just Narcy.
Yeah, because it started becoming detrimental to walking into businesses
Relationships.
and being like, yo, this is the narcissist. And they would laugh at me, you know what I mean? Yeah.
People are narcissists. They just don't admit it usually.
Yeah,
Like
I was
to-
admitting it.
Like Talal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, as he said, rappers, obviously this is an egotistical profession.
Yes.
You speak with your chest on the track. And so for you to take that and essentially disarm in a way, in a funny way, say, you know what, you're going to call me a narcissist for doing this, so I'll just call it myself.
Yeah, I call myself out.
Yeah.
You like lean into it.
Yeah, you got to lean into it.
Right.
Yeah, it's self-love, bro.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm going to take these shades off. It's a bit much.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take our shades off. Come on, let's be humble.
You look like Winter Olympics
Speaking of
snowboarder
narcissism.
or something.
Like Andrea Agassi in this bitch. Word up.
Man.
So
So thank you guys.
Do you
Thank
know
you guys for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know French?
Yes, I know French.
Like-
Not Montana, but I know how to speak
Oh,
French.
you don't know Montana?
I don't know Montana, no.
Parles-vous
Damn.
français?
Je parle français, ouais.
Parce que tu habites à
Je vis à Montréal, j'ai pas le choix au Québec.
Oh.
Il te force à parler français, you know what I mean?
That's all I had was the first.
Yeah, you got the first two words.
Aujourd'hui, c'est mercredi.
Oui, j'ai
I learned
étudié
from
à
French
l'école.
Oh, oui?
Oui.
Where?
In Detroit.
Nice.
En Detroit. En Detroit.
En
But I was
Detroit.
born in Canada, though.
Where?
Windsor.
Windsor?
Yeah, my family's in Windsor.
Both these
Amazing.
guys.
Man, where were you born? Windsor as well?
Moi aussi.
Are you from Detroit?
No.
Like you grew up in Detroit or no?
Well, for 5 years.
Pour 16 ans.
That's how, 16 ans, 16 years.
Oh, no,
You know you done fucked up there.
6 ans.
6 ans. Nice.
6 ans.
Word up.
Narcy,
Yeah, I know that. I'm usually very good with mics, but this shit is weird.
it's a dynamic, so it goes
Yeah,
straight
it's a
into
unidirectional. It's a unidirectional.
unidirectional.
mic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Not omni.
You're right.
yeah. Get your terms right.
You're right. My
Were you gonna play? Were you want to play that song?
Oh,
You guys want to start with playing the song?
Yeah.
Let's talk about how,
Alright.
like, we saw you at the event this past weekend, right?
Yeah.
And you had a listening party, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I mean, to be honest, I selfishly did that because I just mastered my record, so I wanted to hear it on. I've been listening to it on different kinds of speakers.
He's like, let me take this opportunity.
Yeah, so to hear it at that volume. Obviously, the room wasn't the perfect place acoustically to
It's very
listen to it.
reverb, boomy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I heard some.
Well, you like
things I
tested
need
it
to-
live, like with
need
a
to
lot of
fix some things.
people.
Yeah.
And, it was a good kind of like.
Were you
live
there?
Yeah, yeah. I was.
Yeah,
I wasn't able to. I was all the way back in the booth, but
yeah. So
fire in the booth.
I just finished the record like 2 weeks ago. I'd been working on it for like 3 years.
Oh wow.
Took me a minute to sequence the album. I'm an album guy.
Yeah.
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 What do you mean sequence? Like the order of it of the
Yeah,
songs?
the order of it, which songs make it, which songs don't make it.
Yeah. We did some research. You said that every album you do, the last song connects with the next song.
Yeah.
That's
So like,
Tell me how did that happen?
as I travel through my records, and these are like my full length records. So there's the Narcissist, there's World War Free, there's Space Time, and then there's To Be an Arab. They're kind of, each one is like a layer, like an unveiling, until you get to the core of. I was gonna call this album Yasin, which is really like the main name of the album, I would say.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
That's my name.
That's his name.
Yassine.
Yeah.
Okay, but like
That's my real name.
Okay, Yassine what? Or
Yeah.
is that your last name?
No, Yasin's my first name. Yasin Salman. So
Yassine
like
Salman.
the
Hayya
reason
al-Asami.
the thank you, Habibi. The album is really like a conversation between me and a AI bot who's voiced by Nuria,
Okay.
DJ Nuria.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Kind of translating my emotional journey as a man into music. Like that's what she's doing on the record. So there's two sides to the album. I'm a Gemini, so like it's very much there's like the open heart, closed heart kind of energy on the record. So one side was Narcy, one side was Yasin, but it's a full length. It's like 56 minutes. But I've split it in two because I want to put it out as two projects.
Oh, really?
Like To Be an Arab 1 and To Be an Arab 2. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Gives me like To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah.
vibes, yeah.
To Pimp an Arab.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
man.
dope, man. That's dope. So
I'll
it's
play you guys some shit later, but
Yeah, I would love to hear it. So it's a 2-part concept album. So the concept is kind of extending to his point, like you're connecting the lines between the albums in a sense.
Yeah, no, I mean the opening of every album and the ending. I have kind of a sonic universe that I've developed. The same musicians that I go to for every album. the same violin player, same harp player.
Yeah.
I mix with the same people, and I have the same kind of sonic treatment for the music itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I engineer my own shit, so like.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So I do the first phase of mixing.
Okay.
And I record myself, and then I record musicians, and then I edit them down.
Got it.
And then I get it. This time with this album, I stepped away from the mixing just because I wanted to work with Joey closer.
Yeah.
So me and Joey were hand in hand really in the mix of the record.
Okay.
And then Mike Chav did 2 songs on the album, so he mixed those. I kind of let the people that produced what they produced mix it, but I was very involved.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I got 2 beats from Nicholas Craven from Montreal. I don't know if you guys heard of Nicholas Craven. He works with like Ransom and Boldy James and a really, really dope producer out of Montreal. Okay. But I added a bunch of strings and shit. You know, he's very much like the beats I got from him were drumless loops, you know, like really, really dope loops.
Type.
So, yeah.
So being an album guy
Yeah.
in a world of
Singles.
singles and streamings and viral hits and stuff, how do you feel?
Sorry, I didn't mean to play
no.
footsie with
Do you
you.
still feel like you have to try to get a hit or like do singles, or you just like listen to my album front and back like we used to do with like Jay-Z and stuff?
Well, I think that like with this record specifically, my goal is to put it out as an art project. I'm not looking to put this out as like, go listen to my album on Spotify. Like that's a part of it, but that's not really the goal. I spent 3 years crafting this art project, you know?
Yeah.
And as I was making my album, I sent it to a bunch of visual artists, and they interpreted the music as visual art, like paintings.
Wow.
Nice.
So if you look at our bookshop in Maktaba, we in the Majlis section, we have a big painting that says, I miss you like a palm tree. That's based on a song off my record. So Bistiak, who's a Kurdish Syrian artist, he did 12 paintings.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I have...
Interpreting off the album.
yeah, my
Amazing.
sister did some art. Then there's Safia Latif, who I'm talking to right now, who's making an art piece based on the record. She heard the album before it comes out. So
Sick, man.
It's a real artist stuff.
So yeah, I'm just kind of, I love process, bro.
Yeah.
Like at the end, the album is great, and putting the album out is great.
Yeah.
But I feel like as artists, when we rely on these digital platforms, where at the end of the day, they're owned by systems that kill us. You know what I mean? And that's not to like negate their role in our careers, but I feel like if we just lean on them, then we're really not doing service to our work and our stories. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think from selling books in our bookshop and seeing like the physical relationship of, you know, when you read a book, you can't use your phone. You can't do your dishes. You can't, you know.
Yeah. You have to just
read the book.
You can't
So
scroll
I
on.
want to take music to a place where it's like you want to experience the music. You know.
That's
Yeah, I mean, I think Atif kind of alluded to this, where you listen to it as if it's a story. You have to be present
those
and
are the
engaged. Like
best albums.
when you have again, we were just talking about this before we even hit record, like that nostalgic side A, side B, that you flip the LP, and you gotta do that. It's a whole story on it.
Yeah. So I'm doing a double LP. So each LP is about 32 minutes, and each side is a very different vibe. The first vibe is very, you know, musically they all tie in with each other, but the first side is very like hard, dark, like bar heavy.
That's the Narcy side.
That's like the, you know, the beats are a bit futuristic, but the it's very much bar heavy.
Yeah.
And then side 2 is like it's kind of the softer side of my life, you know, being married for so long, being in love with my wife and having kids and you know, like loving life, you know what I mean? So yeah.
It's a beautiful dichotomy, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm
Is
excited.
your wife also Arab?
Iraqi, yeah.
Iraqi,
Sundus, yeah.
nice,
Shout out
nice.
Sundus.
Soon this.
Shout out to
You
the
said
wife.
a few kids.
2 kids.
Got 2 kids.
Nice.
Allah yakhalihum.
Allah yakhalikum,
I
bro.
have a couple questions. One, how did the bookstore?
Hold on, before we leave
go
the
ahead.
music.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because
Please, Atif, hold on.
Yeah,
I got so many questions,
This
man.
guy will keep us going. So that's why he's great. But
First of all, I want the people to know, you know, I shaved my head on purpose. I have a lot of hair, but I just wanted the boys to shine.
yeah, man. Come
Appreciate
on,
you,
you're
man.
shining bright.
I'm literally shining.
No, mashallah, looking great. Man. I like the
Mashallah.
glasses.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, man, you being in the process, in the art so much, I think is what makes you great. You know, is what made your music timeless, is that you pay attention to these details. But I guess my question was like with this project specifically, you said you had the heart side, and you said you had like the heavier side. Have you explored the heart side before on a track, or is this on a record?
I think on my albums I always have one or two songs that are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that really went the furthest in my career. With my first album, it was Alhamdulillah.
Oh yeah.
With Shadi Mansour and Sandhill.
Played that on Mo for the soundtrack. For Mo,
Yeah,
right?
so I rewrote that for Mo, actually, for his show. But like, that song carried me for very long, and it still is my most listened to song, most viewed video.
I noticed.
Right?
Yeah.
And then on my second album, was it my second? Yeah, on World War Free, it was the song I wrote about my son called Son.
Okay.
Which ended up on Rami on season 1 of Rami, the closing.
Wow.
Yeah, the song that closes episode 1 on season 1.
Tight.
Oh wow.
So like
That's
I've had a
big.
good run of opening, the opening Mo joint and the opening Rami one. So those
Yeah,
songs,
that's
and
big.
it wasn't like I gave it to them.
Right.
They hit me for it.
Oh really? Okay.
So it means that those songs traveled the furthest, So I
Yes.
realized that like when I'm truly myself,
Yeah.
it's when it does the best.
Yeah.
When I try too hard, it doesn't really resonate,
How does that feel as an artist? Because like as a rapper, also like we want to give people the bars and we want to come out as aggressively and give them that passion, but really sometimes it's the tracks when we settle in and we just sit in our true emotions that somehow goes the farthest. It might not be our first instinct. But
I think like I've never chased a hit. I don't know what chasing a hit feels like.
Yeah.
Like if you put me in a studio and you give me a jiggy ass beat, I don't know how to. I know how to get down to it. I can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it won't translate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not
Just
thinking.
it won't even like it won't last. Like even like the hits are just the
Yeah,
popcorn.
yeah, exactly. So
You're not framed in that record.
and I did some for this record, which I ended up removing off the record.
Oh,
like
yeah?
very R&B heavy, like not me singing, but like R&B hook.
Yeah.
But I took them off the record just because I played them for people that were close to me, and they were like, "You did it really well, but it doesn't suit you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think like at the end of the day, vulnerability is the key now, especially as Arab men. Like we have to be able to share how we love and how we want to be loved. Like there's nothing wrong with that, because most of the time when they present us or they talk about us, we're either dead, or we're angry, or we're fighting, or we're dying.
Right.
Like there's no positive imagery.
Yeah.
So
It's important to bring that through ourselves in the music and
because
the art.
we're lovers, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out Abdul Halim. Like you know what I mean? Our fathers were lovers. They were just brokenhearted. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because of what they lost in their life. So like it's our duty to kind of heal that and start working from a place of love.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, the Ghassan Kalafanis even that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Khalil Gibran.
Yeah, Mahmoud Darwish, bro.
Mahmoud Darwish.
You know what I'm saying? Mahmoud Darwish.
Why do you
Done
think?
loved up on women.
Oh,
What?
yeah.
Why do you think we're afraid of being vulnerable?
I don't think we're afraid. I think we're trained to not be vulnerable. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm 41, so like when I came into Canada and and I had my teenage experience with girls or with my own heart or my own feelings or whatever, and then I moved to Canada at 21, 9/11 happened, and it was like I had to put on a shield, bro.
Yeah.
And it was hard to just navigate society, let alone navigate your feelings. You couldn't go out and you can go out and cry about it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let you.
Right.
So, with the music, we channeled all our feelings to the music, but like as soon as you show vulnerability to the master, you end up being vulnerable to the master's tools. So like you have to be able to, it was a defensive place we were coming from.
Yes.
And I think when I had kids and when I kind of settled into my practice and accepted that I'm actually outside the industry, I should stop trying to break into the music industry in any way. I just settled in my feelings. You got to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But 9/11 was crazy. I was only like 7 years old, but I mean, I felt but you were grown. You were 21, fresh in the world. Like, how did that feel? Like, I got called a terrorist at 7, so I'm
That's
sure.
insane. I mean, look, I was in Canada, right?
Okay.
So, and I was studying political science and media studies at Concordia, at my school where I teach now. But so I was able to, and then in the media studies program, I was going to the studio. I was learning how to make music and how to engineer. So like I would go to class. We'd learn about politics. I would go to media studies. We'd learn about what we're watching in the news, and then I'd go to the studio and translate it into music.
Nice.
So I had a channel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If I didn't have that, God knows where I would have ended up.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
You know,
Yeah.
I really put it into my work, you know.
Yeah, bro.
So how do you you just internalize what's happening in the world, and then you're like, this is how I feel about it, and then just get in your zone and speak about it, or like.
I mean, it's just a natural. It's like
it's
you
an
said,
artist
it's
thing.
inevitable, right?
So artists do.
I mean,
you know?
I'm
They
an
channel.
Iraqi, bro. So like, I witnessed war several times in my life, you know, through secondhand visuals, right? But my family was in Iraq, so even at a young age, I understood what it meant to be a people who were, people were at war with. So right after 9/11, it's like forget about 9/11.
Yeah.
You know, it was the repercussions of what it opened up towards our community, whether it be Guantanamo, and then remember, Iraq War was the first war where they embedded journalists with American soldiers, not with Iraqis, right? So you were seeing the perspective of the American occupier as the main perspective of the war, and it was
That was the first instance of that.
they didn't have. I mean, they had journalists in Vietnam and shit like that, but they weren't embedded in the fucking tanks
I
with
guess
the
so.
soldiers, right?
Yeah.
It was like a new medium.
Right.
They were going in with their phones and like going into raids with soldiers. Like no one had done that before, right?
I guess that's the beginning of what we're seeing now, which is even more 4K, more.
Yeah. So now, you know, a lot of the stuff. I couldn't finish my album for a year because I was kind of stuck at like, what am I trying to say with the record?
Yeah.
And then when Gaza started, you know, all the stuff that I didn't process from the Iraq War came back bubbling to the surface, bro. And from my 20s.
Yeah.
I share a similar.
Yeah, because you start seeing the bodies piling, and the only difference is now is that the people from Palestine are showing you what's happening to them. So it was actually the occupied's perspective for the first time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not the first time we see anything come out of Palestine,
the
but
other end,
but it was the most violent things we've ever seen in our life.
Oh yeah, and the most documented. To your point.
So
How did it feel when Iraq happened?
it was horrible, bro. It was horrible. You know, the stories that we internalized. You know, one thing about planet Earth is like we're never going to get justice for what they've done to our people. There is no such thing in my belief. There is no such thing as justice on this plane of existence. Once you kill a person, you can't bring them back.
Right.
So there's no real way of making up for that.
Right.
You can repent and be forgiven, but when you do it at the scale that they're doing it to our people, there's no justice for that.
Yeah. Justice extends into
the next world, right? So when the Iraq War happened, and there were stories of like, of the young girl Abir, who was 14, who was, a soldier went out with a bunch of soldiers, and then they got ambushed, and one of them got killed, and then the next day he went out with 2 other soldiers and torched an entire family and raped a 14-year-old girl, Yeah. Like hearing that shit in my 20s, it's like hard to accept.
Yeah.
And then I did a bit of humanitarian work where I went and I saw kids that were burnt during the war. And then I raised money for kids who had congenital heart disease from the war, the after effects of the war, with a Rockefeller, which is where I started at Rockefeller in the first place, right? So like,
God bless you for doing that.
Thank you, bro. I mean, it's not much. It's the least I could do, but I needed to know.
Right.
Like I needed to see.
You need to see it.
Yeah.
Because they weren't showing us.
They weren't. We just heard, Saddam is a bad guy. We got to go destroy the country and take their resources.
Yeah, man. And then recently, part of my closure, subhanAllah, I went in May I went with my brother Sheb Mohan and his sister Z to Baghdad.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that? Because we don't see. I've just been starting to see some things about Baghdad.
Is
crazy.
Beautiful, bro.
Beautiful, yeah. That's what I heard.
I was seeing on your visualizer for one of your tracks that you put out. I think it's Iraq Forever.
Yeah, Iraq Forever, yeah.
Yeah, it had some of the visuals from Iraq.
So we went. We were shooting a GQ magazine that was about Iraq and the creatives in Iraq. But
you were on the cover.
On the
GQ.
cover, yeah.
Come on, now, don't just gloss over that, my boy.
GQ, yeah.
Like I said, we got a legend in the building.
Yeah, so I mean, like, Iraq is beautiful, bro. They try to destroy Iraq on purpose because it doesn't serve the master narrative of what the Arab is. If
the violent.
Yeah, if you keep Iraq around and you keep Palestine around, that's the core of Palestine, Iraq, Lebanon,
The cradle of civilization.
Those are the definitions of what being an Arab were. So in the destruction of our countries, they attempted to rewrite our history for the present, for several different other people and other definitions of who we are, but also for an American project, right? So, I mean, yeah, Iraq was. I realized how important. I always knew how important Iraq was, and Sumeria and Babylon and the history of our people. But until I touched the ground and literally swam in the Euphrates River, like I was like, oh, there's history here that we don't have here in America, bro.
It's magical, man.
Yeah, man.
Swimming in the Mediterranean, I have the same feeling, basically.
Yeah, man. It's our code. It's our DNA. You know?
It's crazy that they even
wild.
brainwashed us as, let's say, Arab Americans to like see the Middle East as, not as beautiful, not as nice. You know what I'm saying? Like even us, we're like, America's better, but like. It's because America went in and
I mean, yeah, like we come here for opportunity, but why don't we have opportunity in Lebanon or in Iraq?
For several reasons. Yeah,
and destroyed the infrastructure and got rid of all the.
Yeah, and they put corrupt people in power, and those corrupt people take advantage of our people, and it's only human nature, right?
I mean, there's so many ironies. Like I've said this story many times, but I'll say one short irony is that. Being in Lebanon during the 2006 war, like I was bombed by my own country that I live in. Like you could, if you got the shrapnel, it literally would say "Made in the USA."
That's crazy, bro.
And I come back and I come here, and this is my safe haven, but I'm getting bombed by my own country.
We're the first generation. Maybe not the first generation to experience it, but the first generation to be aware of it, of witnessing a genocide that we pay for, while using phones that benefit from a genocide in the Congo. So like we are both the problem and we both like
the victim.
Are the problem and the victim of the problem, you know? So it's like for the first time in history we have this I hate the term cognitive dissonance, right? But that's really what it is. It's like how do you reconcile these juxtapositions? Yeah. And what do we do?
Yeah.
We're in it's like they call it the Matrix, but we're in the Matrix. We're plugged in so deep that we're like, we're feeding into the problem.
But once you realize that you're in the Matrix and you realize that this
then you're Andrew Tate.
What, you fucking descend into, what happens?
You're either Neo or Andrew Tate.
Well, you got to learn the game before you play the game. You got to realize what's happening with the play, what the players are.
Yeah, but I think we're too deep into it, bro.
But I will say there's a silver lining. I think, as you said something about master's tools, but I think we're using them against the master.
You can never use the master's tools against the master.
I think we are.
No, but you can. But at the end of the day, the tricknology of that is that you can never dismantle the master's house with his tools. You can't. Audre Lorde said it.
It's happening right now. I'm gonna give you a little pushback.
Tell me,
because
pushback is a very podcast word, by the way.
I know, right?
Podcast pushback.
Yeah. Tricknology.
The way, through Meta, even though there's censorship, but even there is so much being posted that they can't handle it. We are using the iPhones, we're using the laptops, all these things that could be, seen as something that we're feeding into the problem is the only reason why we are seeing what we're seeing and why things are changing.
That it's so documented, maybe to the point we were talking about earlier. But why don't you give him some pushback?
I'll give you some pushback.
Yeah, I would love this.
As a media theorist,
pushback.
Yes, I agree with you. We're reaching critical mass when it comes to awareness about Palestine.
Information.
Yeah, and just like any city you go to now, Philistine's on the walls, which is very important. But at the end of the day, when you're feeding people. The curse of technology is that when you feed people your dead bodies, it doesn't make it better. People get used to seeing you dead. So at the end of the day, we've normalized our death, or they've just like they do with black people when they show you what the police when they show you what police do to black people in America and how they police them. When you end up seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 15 black men and women killed, it becomes. There's a normalcy around people who don't have empathy for our communities.
At some point, you accept it.
It's an accepted reality.
Right.
So with us, and it's not normal. Right.
Not
Within our communities, we feel and we know that it's not normal because we function from a spiritual or a place of relationship to the master that allows us to see the faults in our community and in the master, right? We're in a very privileged position in that sense, that we are both within the system and outside the system, right?
When you say we
as in currently Arabs, right? We exist within the system. We live in America. We're here right now. We're in a podcast studio, but we also exist outside of the system. But Meta and Spotify and Twitter and all these things end up further engendering and further dehumanizing our people at the end of the day. Even if they censor us and there's mass footage of us and like the truth gets out, there's a detriment to that. There's a something that's going to end up happening in the long run.
Yeah.
Because this wouldn't be happening like this if Iraq hadn't happened.
Right.
And Iraq wouldn't have happened had 9/11 not excused the Iraq happening or Afghanistan excused the Iraq happening. So really, this is not new. This is 24 years old. Yani it's 75 years old when it comes to Palestine. But the visual nature of consuming death of Arab people is not a new thing.
Right.
That's why it's not doing anything that they're showing you decapitated babies or babies that are blown to bits, and it's not changing anything.
It's like if it keeps happening and we're seeing
again,
it, what's the point of that?
It hasn't stopped it. If those were white
We're just
babies,
seeing
la
it.
samahallah, it would have changed something drastic in the world. You know?
Look at the grace of this man. La samahallah. Our babies are it's happening
Well,
to us. but
again,
la
I-
samahallah
it
to
does-
any baby, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but it feels different this time because, again, we've seen this isn't, again, the first time that this has happened in Palestine,
Absolutely.
but it seems like it happens and then people forget about it. This time, I don't think
People won't
everyone's gonna
forget this
about
time.
it. The veil has fallen, the mask has been lifted, and as you said, it reached critical mass. And I think,
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree
yeah,
with
we would rather not feed the world our dead, children, and say, wake up. But I think that this is the time that it did change.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you
I think
that we're in a different place. We'll never be the same. I think we have more people on our side than ever before.
Yeah.
And that intersectional love and solidarity is not new, but it's
Strong.
bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the power structures that we're talking to are still standing,
They're immune.
and they're not listening. Right?
But,
you know-
did you see what happened in Michigan with the 100,000 people voting uncommitted to send a message to Joe Biden to stop this?
And did he? You know what I'm
I mean,
saying?
yeah, well,
because
nothing-
look,
yeah,
I come from
I
I come from an era where we protested the Iraq war, man. We were millions in the streets,
Really?
millions
They
in the
never
streets.
told us about that.
Yeah, in London, it was one of the biggest protests in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
crazy.
but they still went ahead and with knowingly saying that it was a lie, and it was in the media that it
Right.
was a lie, and
Right.
they continued on and on until they found Saddam and they hung him on television in Eid, and
Yep.
and it became a deleted history. Because when they hung Saddam, they didn't kill Saddam; they deleted the history that he knows. Right? You didn't really. Again, there's no justice in killing Saddam. You didn't really get justice for the
Right.
Iraqi people by
Right.
killing him.
Right.
So this is my concern.
Yeah, man.
You know, is that at the end of all this, because people love to they didn't call World War II until it was done.
Yeah.
Or it was deep into it. They didn't call World War I until it was deep into it.
Yeah.
So they're not going to accept this as a genocide in public narrative in white history books until it's done.
Right.
And then they're going to say, woe is me, we should have listened.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man.
What
Crazy,
does it do?
man.
What do you think about the Air Force guy lighting himself on fire?
Man, I think that
Aaron Bushnell is his name, I think.
Bushnell, yeah.
you know, I wish he didn't have to do that. It's viscerally, it's metaphoric for what we've been witnessing. I think a lot of soldiers are developing a consciousness. I think the structure is imploding within itself. So people who are really deep in that structure of rule are realizing how corrupt it is.
Yeah.
Starting at the lowest level with the soldiers.
Yeah, and what he did and said was more powerful than anything we could have ever done or said, like as artists
Yeah.
or as even people in our community.
Right.
Had an Arab man burn himself in front of the Israeli consulate, it would have been a completely different story. They still would have shut it down, but they actually would have used it against us.
Yeah.
Right?
I did see a statement. They said, an American going in and killing brown babies or killing brown people is hailed as a hero when he does it in Arabic countries. He does it here to himself, and he's mentally ill.
Yeah, I think mentally ill is a cloak for people who see outside of the ruling class, you know? So I think what he did was a valiant effort to kind of show you how, because at the end of the day, the whole system is burning with what they're doing.
Yeah.
What Israel is doing is a danger to everybody. It's a danger to Jews all around the world. It's a danger to Palestinians in Gaza. It's a danger to us as Arabs in North America. It's a danger to everybody.
Yeah.
It creates
It sets a precedent, man, for what's acceptable and what's unacceptable.
huge ripple effect.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, Allah yarhamah, bro. And like, I don't want to say the wrong thing or the right thing. I feel like it's...
I mean, self-immolation has been used
Yeah.
over and over to protest war.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, that very
monks,
famous monk that burned himself.
It's a breaking point.
Yeah.
When Mohammed Bouazizi would during the Arab Spring,
The
bro.
Arab Spring. He's on that.
So and these moments are a telltale sign that something is about to come.
Yeah.
You know,
They're
it's
like-
not about him.
There were major shockwaves in the fabric of space-time. This man was burning alive, screaming "Free Palestine!"
Palestine.
A white American U.S. Air Force. So
I think sorry if you
No,
don't
go
mind,
ahead,
if
go
you don't
ahead.
mind me saying, I just want to say this. I think it's important to document this. Is
please.
that when we witness people dying in Palestine and we watch it on our timelines, rarely do we read the Fatiha for them. We scroll to the next video without realizing that we are also witnessing our own deaths. You know, that the ummah, why they call it the ummah or why they call it the human body or the collective spirit, is because at the end of the day we are interconnected, and they make you want to forget that.
Yeah.
So the reason it hurts us so much is because we're literally watching parts of our collective existence dying in front of us, and we have to remember that. That's why this is important.
Wow.
You know, I think that it's a huge loss. Every life is a huge loss for us.
100%.
Yeah.
And if we accept violence being done to our people, then violence is going to be done upon other people, and that's not acceptable anymore. You know what I mean?
1,000%, brother.
Yeah, and again, continuing, I think he also, Aaron Bushnell, had classified, since he was in the Air Force, they were saying that he had information about how the U.S. is aiding.
Yeah.
Whether it was
there are U.S. troops.
Well,
In
he
the
was
tunnels.
called. He was called. I think this might.
Bisan said
I have
she
to
saw
fact
one.
check this, but I saw something that he was called to serve in
Yeah,
Gaza,
yeah, and it was mandatory.
and it was mandatory. He had no choice.
But not
so
only
he'd
that, he
rather
was like
burn
an
him.
information analyst, so he saw things that were being classified
Right.
that we're not seeing.
But imagine being in his position, having his position of empathy with Palestinians, and being called to go out and lead airstrikes or get intelligence on, points to hit for those airstrikes,
Yeah.
which is what they're doing. I think.
Right, and there's, I think I forget. There's a movie with Ethan Hawke. I think it's called Good Kill. He's like a drone.
Oh yeah.
I
drone
forget if it's
operator.
Iraq or Afghanistan, but again, like that is such a visceral feeling. Like people that can be thousands of miles away, just dictating somebody's life. They can kill somebody without even ever meeting them, never seeing their face, nothing.
I feel like it's easy to kill someone when you think they're the bad guy, but once you like realize that you're not killing the bad guys, you're just killing everybody. You're like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah, I think that we're very lucky that we weren't put in a position where we had to be at war yet. You know, we may have experienced war. You may have experienced war.
Well, I mean, I was 13. I mean, again, if that
Yeah,
happened
but
when I was now,
Yeah.
I would have probably had a different approach to it.
Yeah,
Maybe.
But I'm just saying that, like, the rules of engagement and conflict and death and like, we've never had to kill anybody.
Right.
You know, and alhamdulillah that God put us in the position where we've never had to face somebody that's trying to kill us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think like the precipice of what we're watching is that it's become acceptable for death to be inflicted upon children, and that's a fucking slippery slope that we're living on right now. You know, it's the kids mostly, man. For me,
and there's people that actually think that those kids are gonna become terrorists, so what, kill them. Like there's people that actually believe that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's people that live amongst us that believe that.
This is the sick ideology that leads to such killings, right?
Yeah. How dare they? You know, during the war on terror, put Muslims in jails all around the world with bags on their heads and torture them because they went and fought for these so-called Islamic, you know, jihadist groups who didn't represent our community and were actually funded by the enemies of humanity. Whereas when young guys go and join the IDF from Paris and fucking London and South Africa and Greece and here, and they come back home to us.
Right.
You know, what about the repercussions of that upon people who live here and the young Arabs that are going to high schools here? What's going to happen to them? Like those kids that got shot in Vermont.
Yeah.
Like, why is that acceptable?
Paralyzed forever.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other foreign state that it would be acceptable for that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, in our elections, in people joining and representing another country in the army and then coming here, it's against everything.
Yeah, we should be fighting for equal treatment of everybody.
Yeah.
If the system is going to treat everybody like they're expendable, then do that.
Right.
If you're going to treat everybody like they're guilty, then do that.
Yeah.
But don't be selective.
Right.
You know?
That's when it's
That's when it's a slippery slope. Yeah.
I mean, you've experienced this for much longer than we have. Like, this might be the first major, you know, I'm gonna call it what it is, a genocide or major mass murder campaign that we are experiencing. Obviously, we were here for the Iraq War, but we weren't in this you know, maturity to be able to internalize what's happening and deal with it and navigate it. And so, you know, for you have an experience in maybe you're a bit calloused in your hope of this getting better, because you saw what happened in Iraq. You were in the streets protesting, you know, millions of people, and then here it is happening all over again. So, you know, maybe it's easier for us to have a hopeful outlook.
I'm not telling you to not have a hopeful outlook. I think hope is the only thing that keeps us going.
It's hard to have hope right now.
I think what's important is to be realistic in what we can achieve.
Yeah.
You know,
What do you think we can achieve?
I don't think America as a system, or North America or Europe as a system, which these systems are extensions of European systems. At the end of the day, we live on a colony,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And the injustice that was committed in Canadian land and American land to the Native American and to the indigenous, if the governments here or the ruling class here were to admit what was happening to the Palestinians, or what happened to Jews in Europe before the 40s, right? If they were to admit that these things are unjust, then they have to come to terms and admit to the fact that what was done in the establishment of these nations were unjust. And we're so deep into this project that they can't undo that for themselves. They don't want to.
Yeah.
Reparations, right?
Yeah, it's not even money. What's money gonna do?
Reparations
The
more,
justice
more than
can't
money.
be served.
Yeah, but justice can't be served though for it. So
and to your point, they point to colonial regimes such as America to say, well, it happens in America. Like, I've heard Zionists argue this before, like, war happens, or, well, you know, look at America,
stolen
or,
land.
Yeah, or look at other. You blame everyone. Why, you know, you only blame Israel. Blame everyone else. Like, they literally use this logic.
And really, at the end of the
Or
day, it's the British Empire, it's the Dutch, it's the, you know, it's and in every community there is a version of the story of the European and what they did to. You know, if you look at the Nation of Islam with Yaqub and the you know, how the white race was kind of dominating over other people, the way that Europeans treated our countries and split them apart, and then when they came here and established these places, there's nothing wrong with saying these things because it's historical fact.
It's just actually.
But again, the narrative, like we go back to Meta and the platforms that we're using, the narrative was always controlled by the so-called master in these situations.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if we use their tools, we're just only serving
Right.
the continuation of their existence. We have to start thinking like, how can our people create our own
Yeah.
version of
Yeah.
meta?
Yeah.
Or because our consumption rate on YouTube is higher than anybody else. Our consumption rate on our music does better than anybody else in the world right now. So it's like, how do we
take hold of the means of production.
how
of
do our people that
communication.
have the ability to create our own platforms start creating them? That's why Al Jazeera's doing it crazy right now.
Yeah.
Even if some places, even if the place that Al Jazeera comes from might have some issues and some problems,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's one of the only places that's from us,
Right.
that's speaking for us,
Yeah.
and telling the truth, bro.
So important.
So,
But I feel, I mean, that's why they want to take down.
I got an idea.
which
for
is
you
why I
about
never
this.
signed any contracts, by the way, just to let you know. Which is why I never got into any kind of contractual agreement with record labels that were within a systematic control of narrative. It's like you fall into the trap, you take the pharmaceutical money, you're trapped. You know?
Yeah.
You can't. You don't think you can dismantle it from within?
No, bro. Neo didn't even dismantle the Matrix from within. he just made a few people realize what it was, and pulled the plug on certain things. But the agents were still around. They still try to get him till fucking the Matrix Part 4, which sucked. So like, you know what I mean? There's no way of. I don't think there's a way of this. Dunya is meant to be the way that it is,
what
bro.
It is.
Oh,
It's not supposed to be heaven.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
so we're
It
not
is
supposed to figure
dystopian.
it out. We're just supposed to live here and
no, we're supposed to figure it out. You're supposed to figure out where you stand in it.
Right.
Right?
okay.
You're supposed to figure out where you stand in it and what you're gonna do with the time that you have here. I think that's really, and then like, and give praises to Allah or Jah or whatever you might be giving praises to, right? So I think that
That's part of figuring out where you stand, right? You stand under,
yeah,
beneath him.
yeah,
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This guy.
yeah. No, I don't pledge allegiance to any
Man,
flags.
it's crazy they made us pledge
Dystopian.
allegiance when we were young. Remember that?
I don't.
You pledged to the kingdom of Jordan.
Malik.
Why don't
I mean, you look like you disagree with me, or is that just your? You're
his face.
just
That's
a
his
good-looking
face.
guy. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
RDF
Wait,
was
say-
saying
let me say that
Mashallah.
again. They were talking over you when you said that.
Yeah, say it again.
I didn't say anything.
Okay, we'll cut out the other audio.
But no, disagree with what you're saying. Like,
No, I don't know. I just can't tell. I
Because
can't
I don't
tell.
know. I feel like we have people our people in higher levels now that are doing it from within.
Like who?
I mean, we're talking about
Say
this
names.
in the car, right?
People in Congress, is that what you're talking
No,
about?
say names
Or
right here. They're right.
Well, Congress,
They're written out.
music industry.
Congress, yeah, people, executives in certain areas,
Like
that,
Universal Arabia, right?
that could be one of them. Yeah,
I mean, Empire maybe.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that's different. Empire
different.
and Universal are different.
different
right?
than
Yeah,
How
I
do
mean-
they feel about Masari and Universal and
Yeah,
Sonic?
Masari, the God body Masari, bro. He's a Canadian legend. I'll never.
We love Masari.
They broke the mold kind
Yeah.
of, because it takes really two different spaces in order for culture to penetrate. It takes the commercial space, and then it takes that grassroots
Right.
element. You
Yeah.
can't do it without one or the other.
Yeah. From the top down and the bottom up.
Yeah, so what Belly did and what Masari did, and Belly never sacrificed his message ever,
Right.
like from day one. So like
Immigrant.
yeah, so even before Immigrant, bro, his history of
Yeah,
violence and all that stuff when I was coming up, and he was doing, I wouldn't say commercial, but they were on TV.
From back in the day, bro.
Yeah, when they were rushing the floor,
Yeah,
and it was,
rushing- yeah.
girl, I'm going out of my mind, and all that stuff. Like,
Yep.
we were seeing that on TV while I was doing the protest, doing the shows at the marches
Yeah.
and the protests
Yeah.
with the activists, right?
He
So
told me a lot of that music got taken down.
my music,
No,
his
not
music.
Belly's
We
music
met
Yeah.
from
we
back
met
in
We
the
met,
day.
we met Belly and Masari.
Yeah, I mean
We
that
got
was
great
the
guys.
that was the CD era.
At
Yeah.
Benzine, yeah.
So like you think like, cyclically where we're at now, it doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right.
Like Eliana and Saint Laurent
Yeah.
and any artist that's coming out now would not exist if it wasn't for them or Omar Effendim or Shadia Mansour or
Fred Rec.
or me or whoever.
Narcy Nars.
Right? So it's like
Narcy.
and Belly and Masari.
Yeah,
so like
yeah.
it's an opening
CEO
Khaled.
Smoking Joe.
what's it called? Culture travels like this.
Yeah.
It expands. It doesn't move laterally. It expands like this. And then sometimes they'll put limits on it for it to get closed in, but then it bursts through, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're having a burst through right now.
Yes,
You know
sir.
what I mean?
That's why I always think it's great to, when people like you are successful no matter what. Like you have to be happy for them, because then that it creates opportunity for more people that are like you, right? You can't just be like, oh, that guy, oh, I should be that guy. Like you got to be happy and take that.
100%.
And like he just opened a lane, and now you can drive on it.
100%.
Yeah, and you hope, I don't know them personally. I don't know any of the, I don't know any of them personally like that. I haven't hung out with them much.
Yeah.
And I know the intention of the artist. I know what an artist's intention is. And if you go on their social media, they're sharing how they feel.
Right.
Masadi's sharing how he feels. Belly's sharing how he feels.
Yeah.
And you just hope that the executives that are in the position, that are in the meetings with people who usually don't think like us, I would hope that they're watering plants properly. And that's the only thing you could do. And it's like everybody has their role, bro.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, as long as we're not publicly dragging each other at a time like this,
Right.
and we're being very mindful and speaking to each other in the shadows and in the background to strengthen our role. Everybody plays a role, as long as they're not being detrimental to the culture. Like certain people, we know who I'm talking about, are being detrimental and not saying anything because they're
DJ.
you know what I'm saying, they're protecting their own assets, right? So
Yeah, man, I got faith in them, man. I think they are, man. I think speaking to these men and feeling their energy and and hearing their words, I got faith that they are watering plants in the dark.
Listen, for me also, it's with the youth, bro. We're already in I'm already in my 40s. You guys are in your 30s? Early 30s, in your 20s, right?
29, 30.
And then you got kids like MC Abdul, who's 14, 15, bro.
crazy.
That's the future, bro.
Yeah.
Him and artists that are in their 20s already, they're going to be 30 before they know it. And it's not too late, but in that space, you have a limited time when you're within the system, right?
Yeah.
So you really got to be smart and meticulous about how you move in those 8 to 10 years that you have in that system, right? I've had the privilege of like being on the outside, and it gave me longevity, and survival and happiness, right? So you hope for a kid like MC Abdul to have a very prosperous, flourishing career because his pen is already strong.
Yes, sir.
And his mind is already strong.
Yep.
And as long as he can't get corrupted by whatever the ill will of whoever comes into his life from outside of his circle, then that's the future, bro.
Right.
People like MC Abdul is the future, bro.
Yeah, man.
Eliana is the future. Firdos is the future. You know what I mean?
Oh man, that young man has a strong head, mashallah, man.
Mashallah, I love that kid.
I met him in SF after his show.
And then they
his first
also
show.
inspire the next, like them doing it inspires the next generation. How many people are going to be singers now because of Eliana? Like think that they can do it because they saw like an Arab girl really hit the world and she's talented,
Yeah, man. And justice and cultural change is not. It's incremental. It's generational. It's not overnight.
It compounds. I feel like
it's not overnight.
It's like
when Rami went on stage and said Allahu Akbar. When he won that award for season 1 or whatever, that's an incremental step. When Mo gets a show on Netflix, that's an incremental step. When Saint Laurent goes viral on TikTok, that's an incremental step. When MC Abdul goes viral on Instagram and rappers from all over the world share him, that's an incremental step.
100%.
When Habibi House is the #1 podcast
That's
in the
an
world.
incremental step. When I'm in the university being able to teach hip hop at a level, that's an incremental
step.
And those things don't last forever, but they kick in door by door. There's a million doors in front of us.
Leads to the next door.
Yeah.
So on the topic of we mentioned Empire briefly, but
shout out Sohail, shout out
Sohail, shout out Ghazi. And I think they are protecting, inshallah. I feel confident that MC Abdul.
We need your voice raspy, bro.
I'm gonna keep it rap. We need that cinnamon challenge.
I also got faith that MC Abdul is going to be protected because he's in good hands, man. I mean, they pulled him out of Gaza, literally out the rubble, and they brought him to San Francisco, and that's when I met.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I got to spend a bit of time with Ghazi, and I really liked his vision. I had a conversation with him.
Nice.
And Sohail I grew up with.
Oh, okay.
Sohail I came up with in the rap scene.
That's right.
Sohail was in Dem.
Yeah, Dem.
So the first groups I toured with were Omar Effendim and Dem.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I
Dem
remember that.
as in blood.
No,
is the-
Dem
is
as
the
in Tamil
band,
Nafar,
bro.
Suhail Nafar.
I meant
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what the
Dem,
word
they're
means.
called Dem.
DAM.
It stands for the Arab MCs.
Oh, I thought you were saying
But-
blood.
But Dem is their
Man,
group name.
They're goated, man. Those are some of the first
That's
to rap.
you know, those are the OGs of Palestinian
Yeah.
hip hop in a way.
Yeah.
And to have Suhail in an executive position is extremely important. He's a critical thinker. He's a political artist, or he was a political artist.
Yeah.
And he cares about his people, bro.
Yeah.
So to have that is paramount to anything. For me, it was like
Man.
Swish. You know,
Man.
he was at Spotify. He helped the Arab voice come out of Spotify amongst other voices in the diaspora.
Yeah.
So Suhail is a key member of our
yeah.
community.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
going to go down as one of the most important people.
100%. He's one of those. He's like, you know, what's the other guy in the Matrix?
Morpheus?
Morpheus?
Well, he's one of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that type.
yeah.
That type.
Trinity.
Mr.
Please
Anderson?
please don't wear leather tights, Suhail.
It's like
That's
you-
my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, again, everybody plays a part, bro.
Yeah.
It's brick by brick, bro.
Yeah.
It's not over day that you build a house, you know.
But that's dope to see, right? Like a Palestinian-owned
Yeah.
giant of a record label.
Yeah,
putting-
when you go to San Francisco, you feel Palestine in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And in Oakland.
yeah.
So like, it's beautiful to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna go out there to their studio soon and see.
Yeah, I
the
recorded
building.
there. I recorded some of my album there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
You know, I haven't announced this on the show yet, but I told you this in the car on the way here, but I got the distribution deal through Empire.
Hell yeah.
Thanks to Suhail. So
Hell yeah.
Hey, shout out to Sahel.
Baruch, bro.
long time coming, man. You know, starting out of Amen, Jordan, all the way over, seeing Dem, seeing you, seeing Omar Fendum, you know, watching all those videos, seeing you guys literally pave the way in my young mind to do what I do. You know, like I felt those ripples you're talking about, you know, that fabric of space-time being morphed into saying, you know what, these people are talking about it, Immortal Technique is talking about it, Low Key is talking about it, you know, just naturally speaking up with.
Sorry, I think that's my phone.
Oh, you're playing.
Oh, the glitches.
Yeah, man.
It just
It's
made
a
us.
beautiful thing,
Or it's
bro.
the NSA.
It might be the NSA.
Yeah, someone's tapped
They follow me
in.
everywhere. The Narcy security agency.
The
Damn.
feds. The feds.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Can I ask you what your top 5 rappers are?
Of all time?
Yeah.
Fuck, bro.
Top.
Sorry, am I not allowed to curse?
No,
no,
go
no,
ahead.
yeah,
This is the
please
question
go.
on the list.
Say whatever the freak you want.
Fudge.
You know, as a professor of hip hop, it's hard to it's hard to
PhD.
choose. No, I don't have a PhD. I have masters, but I've been teaching. I mean,
Light flex.
I want to get into that too. Like
Mashallah.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, you know,
Oh, you're being you're serious.
well, I'm
He
serious about
teaches-
what-
he
I
Okay,
teach-
so
I've been
you
teaching
actually
at the
have
university.
like a
Yeah, I have
Bro,
a
he
master's
teaches.
degree.
yeah. Okay.
I did my master's degree on
thought you were
Arab
saying
identity and hip hop.
Okay. Cool. That's awesome.
Say that one more time. You did your.
Master's degree on Arab identity and hip hop in the media studies department. I wrote a book called Diatribes of a Dying Tribe, and it's like
Where can we find that?
in my bookshop at Mektaba.bookshop. Go get
Is it,
Mektaba
is it
online
like
right
a
now.
brick
It's a
and
book.
mortar?
Yeah, it's my brick and mortar in
You
Montreal.
can it's in Montreal.
Yeah, my
Okay.
bookshop's in Montreal. Come
Do you have an online store too?
Yeah, Mektaba.online.
Mektaba.
Just put it like right here. Mektaba.online.
Yeah, we got it.
Let's do the rappers first, and then I want
So
to hear
the
the story
the
about
rappers.
starting a bookstore
And being a.
and being a professor.
I would have to say, artistically speaking, or like with the pen, you know, Black Thought is a very important person for me because he's never had a whack verse,
Major.
and he can ride any beat and his
Freestyle, like
cadence and his everything like Black
No
Thought from
other.
day one.
Yeah, 100%.
His top 5 best
Pens?
His
Pens.
favorite.
Are we
rapper-
talking about
his-
pens right now?
Well,
No,
that's
no.
a very hard question to ask, right?
Artistically,
Yeah, I
as
mean,
rappers.
can you-
the
can
way
you-
you've been
can
doing
you-
it?
No, but rappers is different.
You can differentiate pens from rappers.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you top 5 lists of like
Influence?
These are my favorite writers.
Okay.
These are my favorite artists.
Okay.
These are my favorite, you know, producers. Like these are my favorite
Yeah.
because every MC is different. Like I'd put Kendrick in the top 5 list 100% because
Yeah.
he's been undeniable
Right.
from the jump.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Let's do the
So that's
pens
2 of them.
first.
Wait,
Let's do
okay.
the
Okay,
pens
so
first.
pens.
We're
Okay.
doing pens. Okay.
And then
So
we'll move on.
Nas, Black Thought.
Nas.
I think for me, influentially, it would have to be a Big Pun because of his stylistic writing, not
Right.
necessarily lyrics, but because of his delivery, it
Yeah.
affected me in a great way.
Yeah.
Yasin Mos,
Mm-hmm.
because of the crossroads between Islam and
He just gave us some
Poetry.
love on our content too.
he did.
Yeah,
He shared one of your pieces.
I'm not sure if he shared. He liked some stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
It's cool to see
Yasin is definitely in my top 5, and he knows that.
Yeah.
And
And you had a song with him recently.
yeah, not recently, but yeah,
I mean, in 2018.
yeah, I consider him one of my bros,
Yeah.
one of my brothers.
Yeah.
Drake.
Because I'm Canadian.
Oh, you
I
heard
saw
what
some-
Yasin
How much is
said.
that for?
That's
Yeah.
four.
Yeah.
It's cool, by the way, that Yasin and Yasin, both of y'all.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Yasin.
And then as a fifth, he might not be considered an MC, but as a writer, somebody like a Mahmoud Darwish or somebody from our community that's not hip hop but is still an MC in my opinion.
Let's throw him in there. Let's put
Okay.
Mahmoud Darwish in the top
Darwish?
5 MCs.
Yeah, put Mahmoud Darwish my top 5.
Yes,
Fuck
sir.
that.
Come on.
We're breaking
This
the
is a
rules.
list
Number
you'll never
one.
hear ever.
So I don't like top 5 lists because it's
Yeah.
like again everybody, Lauryn Hill had a great effect on me.
Right.
Biggie had a great effect on me, but it's
Yeah.
not necessarily for the same reasons.
You're talking about purely pens at this point.
If I was talking about lyrics
Yeah.
and delivery and dexterity, Nas said, I smoked so much la, I seen a dead bird flying through a broken sky, let alone all the shit that he said on Illmatic. Like, these are things that, like, are darts,
Yeah.
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 So, yeah.
And it's longevity too, right? He's been doing it.
He's
for
still
so
doing
long.
it.
It's not like you did it for a year.
And I mean, Jay-Z said a bunch of shit that stayed with me forever.
Yeah.
I do this for my culture, Like, there's things that every MC has said that has stayed with me. But
Right.
if I had to tell you 5 right now, it would be those.
So to
right now.
recap, you said
That's not recapping.
No.
no. I kind of want. I just want to make sure. Narcy's top 5 pens. You said Mos Def. Well, you started with Black Thought, Nas,
Big
Mos Def.
Yeah.
Kendrick.
Nope.
I didn't say Kendrick.
You
No.
said Big Pun.
Big Pun
and Mahmoud Darwish. Narcy's top 5.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And Khalil Gibran.
Khalid Gibran too, yeah, for sure.
How about Eminem, man? You gonna leave Eminem out the list?
No, I think Eminem as it's different. Eminem, because for me, what makes a great MC is the ability to not only articulate and spit and deliver, but also to use your platform in a responsible way. That makes I came from the era of the teachers, so like
Respect.
That's very important for me. Like a big part of being an MC is not just being a rapper.
Right.
It's being responsible with your platform. And Eminem, as great as he is, he's one of the greatest writers that we have.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest syllabalistic MCs and like rappers. And
Yeah.
he's great. He's one of the GOATs.
That's why I ask about the pen.
But he wasn't very responsible.
Yeah.
In the early days, as much as it influenced me and was important, because if Eminem didn't break through, then truly Arab MCs also wouldn't have broken through. Like, I think Eminem had a gift of the curse being the first white MC to
Right.
break at the level that he did.
Yeah.
But he brought in the question of, okay, then other cultures
Yeah, can also
that are not black are allowed to enter the space
big time.
and become visitors, and as long as they pay homage to the craft and the art and the culture.
Right. Yeah, man.
So Eminem also is a responsible individual when it comes to hip hop culture. I think very much he showed homage to the culture, and
100%.
he knows his shit. He's a
100%.
historian and he
Student.
studied it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't put Eminem in my top 5 for that reason, because there's a certain knowledge of self that wasn't present in the work that
Because of the influence of, drugs probably at the
drugs
time.
and industry and
industry.
and marketing yourself in a way where
Yeah.
you're taking these extremes in your life and putting them on, and it had a detriment to his mental health,
Yeah.
And he came out of that, which is very difficult.
Very, very respectful.
Like his biggest feat he could have sold 1 billion albums and went diamond or whatever. But the
then
biggest
died.
feat for me, was Eminem came out of his own demons,
Yeah,
bro.
100%.
And even if the music suffered a bit, after he let go of his
Hey,
demons,
man, alhamdulillah.
he survived, bro. That's his biggest award, bro.
100%. Wow. Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Because the music did suffer a little bit. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
If you could bring one person back, would it be Pac or Biggie?
Shout out M.
Dude, you don't understand. I'm literally thinking right here. I was like, I'm gonna pull an Atif. I'm gonna say, why not? Pac
Why
or
not
Biggie?
Pac?
Pac or Biggie.
Pac was influential on me later in my life.
Okay.
But would you bring Pac back or bring Biggie back? Because Pac was
I'd
a
bring
big
Both
back
still
guys.
alive, bro. You don't know that?
I mean, I'm saying bring him back from Cuba. What do you
Yeah,
want?
bring them back from where
I wouldn't want to choose who to bring back from death, right? I think like
What do you have, a Tupac shirt?
yeah, we have to remember
But
that
Tupac was a great activist, though.
we have to remember that
His voice.
Tupac and Biggie were in their 20s, bro. They were babies,
Young.
bro.
Yeah,
Young.
And not babies, but they were young men.
100%.
And it's unfortunate that they died the way they did. I was in my teens when they died, and I experienced that loss, right, as a community. So, but Pac had an influence on me later when I developed knowledge of self and understood what Machiavelli meant as an album, or what Keep Your Head Up meant, or what all changes and all that. I didn't know what that shit meant when I was in my teens.
Yeah.
It was when I knew who I became,
Right.
and I went back and revisited all his work and realized how influential he actually was on me on a subconscious level.
Pac was a little
Subconscious.
more like radical than Biggie, would say, right? Like he was.
He's more
Pac,
politically
I mean, Pac came
influential.
from a Black Panther background. Like
That's what I'm saying. So like when you say Pac or Biggie, it's definitely you're kind of comparing apples to oranges.
yeah, they're very different. They play different roles in the culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they both represented the streets in different ways. And yesterday I was talking to my friend Saul, and he was saying, the gangster and the artist exist in the same space in the margins of society. The only difference is sometimes the gangster looks out for himself and the artist looks out for community, but they come from the same place. Where it's like looking at the system and living outside of it, right. So I think everybody's a part of the puzzle, bro. It's important.
Man. 100%. No, man. Pac definitely went out with a bang too, and like the way.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. And big.
yeah, with the bang. So.
With Eminem, I did want to. Do you have another question?
No, if you want to keep staying on this topic.
No,
he loves Eminem, by the way.
Well, no, just about opening.
He's
the,
from
I
Detroit.
mean, it's
No?
my first.
He's not from Detroit. I'm
I'm
from
not from
Detroit.
Detroit.
I don't even love Eminem that
The
much.
first CD that I remember buying, like I remember being in Detroit.
I like Lil Wayne better.
First CD you bought was Eminem.
Yeah, Curtain Call. I remember that.
Oh, you're young as fuck, bro. I bought the Slim Shady EP on tape, bro.
Damn.
And then eventually the Slim
I remember being on the bus with my Walkman. I mean, I know this is different generation, but that's your tape is my
Cassette player. You had the cassette.
I had all of
yeah,
them.
That's the
yeah.
Walkman.
I mean, I remember cassette players.
And when the bus would bump,
The CD would skip?
and shit.
Yeah, I mean, I discovered Eminem when I was living in Abu Dhabi. It was 96, and like I downloaded. What was it?
96?
Yeah, 96, 97 was it?
Yeah.
That
That's
word
the-
existed.
that's the
downloading?
Downloaded, yeah.
Yeah,
I
from
mean, it was like we
LimeWire.
had
Floppy
not
disk.
even LimeWire, bro. It was websites that were like hip hop websites.
Yeah.
And I downloaded the Slim Shady EP before I even came to North America. Before I bought anything that was physical by him.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the? I didn't know he was white.
Yeah. Same in the beginning. I didn't
I heard, I just don't give a fuck.
Right.
Right. And it was incredible sonically. I was downloading a shitty MP3 of this song that like already sounded like it was underwater, and the shit he was saying was like, what? How do you even get away with shit like this? It was the feeling I got when I listened to NWA when I was in, 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like,
man.
And that was important.
And
man.
like you said, he reached the international stage. Like he reached me and Jordan on the radio. I think it was like, Without Me, like this is a good job for me. And like I was the Arab impacted by him that you're talking about. That like then became able to, hip hop is a thing, like, and a real thing. And then that, opened up the can of worms, or the beautiful like portal to all the others we're talking about, with the Black Thoughts and the Pacs and the Biggies. But the reason I wanted to bring the conversation back to him is, do you think, you touched on the privilege of obviously he has, and that we have to, as Arabs in hip hop, and yourself as an Arab in hip hop, do you feel like you do have a privilege, or do you feel like you have a setback being, restrictions being Arab? Like how do you balance that responsibility?
I think that's the word. Like I have a responsibility. At the end of the day, Black culture in America opened up a huge, and I keep saying knowledge of self, but it opened up a huge space for us to exist in.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be who we are. Because they're the original people that were done wrong with the indigenous
Yeah.
by the Americas.
Yeah.
So in our relationship to this land and then to black culture,
Yeah.
we have to be very responsible and know that we are visitors
Yeah.
and that, you know, you can't enter the space and be disrespectful.
Right.
You know, a lot of our brothers say the N-word from our community. And it
What are your
flies
thoughts
up.
on that?
They should not be saying the N-word. Our people are deeply responsible for slavery for centuries. So, you know, but I didn't grow up in America where you lived amongst black and brown communities and these words were being thrown around freely.
I mean,
But again, when I was 14, 13, 12, I also was ignorant and used these words because I was listening to them in the music.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But at this point, being somebody who hip hop has allowed me to see the world, it's allowed me to create a career for myself. It's allowed me to vocalize my experience of the Americas. And then it's allowed me to teach at the university. And really, it's allowed me to open a bookshop.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me to make merch. And it's done so much for me
Yeah.
that it would be insane
Right.
if I didn't say that I am a visitor and I have the responsibility and the privilege to be a visitor in this space, in this culture.
Right. What a privilege.
Because that's what the industry does. The industry milks the black experience. It milks the experience of the... But as a cultural force, it's undeniable what hip-hop did for all of us, bro.
100%.
You know, in my book, I say hip-hop is highly intellectual people hovering over politics. It allows you to get a bird's-eye view of the world. When we visited Queensbridge with Nas and Illmatic, it was a bird's-eye view of the world.
Did everyone get that?
You visited Queensbridge with
No,
Nas?
No.
Before that,
Highly
he did
intellectual
he did
people
an
hovering
acronym.
over
He
politics.
just did an acronym
Yeah.
of hip hop.
Oh, I didn't catch
Exactly.
that.
Oh, I
Back there was
got
an
that.
acronym.
Yeah, so
Highly
that's
intellectual
in
people.
the Diatribes of Dying Tribe. So like, these are lessons that lessons that we got to live with. So I think it's, as Arabs, we have a huge responsibility to give back to the cultures that opened doors for us because we milked cultures as well. We were a form of an oppressor.
How so? Because I wanted to ask you about
And it's
racism.
okay to admit that, right? It's okay to talk about.
Yeah, if you're not-
Listen,
Like, I want to talk
there
about
were
racism
some things
in our
yeah.
community.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I mean there was the whole. I mean, no one's perfect, right? So, I think there was. What did we milked? I think there was like some Arab slave trade or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Was it racial though, or was it just?
Absolutely, it was. It
No,
was.
it's just business, bro.
I mean, and there was
Absolutely, it
multiple
was
ethnicities
African
being
slave
enslaved,
trades
right?
through ports all over the Arab world, bro. And to this day, if you go to certain Gulf countries, there's forms of slavery that exist. You know, even in Lebanon,
it makes
bro.
me,
Yeah.
it makes me cringe when
You're talking about like South Asian
South
workers
Asians,
that are
black,
exploited.
Ethiopian, Sri Lankan, like all types, and even the relationship that there are black Arabs, bro. There's black Basrawis, there's black Palestinians,
yeah.
and I'm sure their experience of Arab lands is, there's nothing wrong with saying this. I think we tend to hide behind these shameful things, as opposed to the only way you can make them better is to discuss them. Like
Yeah,
we said, you got to
100%.
love on each other better as a community.
Yeah.
So like we got to get better, bro.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I want to learn about these flaws.
I mean,
'cause
the words that we even use to refer to them is
It's insane.
and it makes me so sick. And
So us as a generation, not just me, but like our generations and further on, have to undo these things.
Yeah.
Whether we're breaking the generational traumas of our fathers and mothers who had to immigrate and lose their land and pass that trauma onto us in fear, we got to get rid of that fear.
Yeah.
And all these programmable things that exist within our community have to be undone.
Right.
And undone in a responsible way.
Yeah. Yeah.
What Edward Said did for us, we got to do for our next generation. And even if it means simplifying it, but we got to make them aware of how we are seen and how that is a part of a bigger vision of the world that the European created that we internalized and in turn used against our own people.
Big time. Big time. And I think that's also, as a side note, what's happening with the Middle Eastern, the Arab Jewish people, with the racism they're expressing towards us. They internalized it from their European.
Absolutely. Experience.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
experience, and from their European counterparts also.
Yeah.
They moved there.
Yeah.
So
But
why-
Islam does teach. Sorry, but Islam does teach acceptance regardless of skin color. So for a true Muslim community, there's supposed to be zero racism, but obviously that's not been the actual experience.
Yeah, I mean, when Malcolm went to Mecca and he came back, and he said, I realized that the white man can. I don't remember exactly what he said, but like he prayed next to light-skinned Syrian dudes, and he realized that actually, Islam is a universal expression of faith.
Yeah.
We rarely practice that as a community.
True form of Islam.
A true form of internationality.
International.
Because at the end of the day, these borders and boundaries are like a European construct. So,
Right. Palestine was never a country, right?
Yeah, it's a quote unquote.
And a country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you wanted to talk about?
You guys want to take a deep breath real quick?
Let's do it.
Shit, we haven't even talked about rap music or like anything, bro.
I mean, we want to play your song.
You guys want to hear a song?
Yeah, let's do
You guys
that.
had questions for
I
later
kind of
about
wanted
the
to ask
Mektaba.
about the swag that you're wearing. Is that anything that's
This
merch?
is, this
any
is,
merch that
no,
you're
this is-
repping?
Tell me about the fit. Tell me about
Shout
the
out
fit.
Story MFG. One of the, it's half owned by an Iraqi guy.
Okay.
My guy Saeed. So he.
What about the chain?
And Katie.
Let me do the fit check.
So the pants are also Story MFG. So I'm all Story MFG'd out. I'm wearing Yeezys right now. This is my children's name and me and my wife's names.
That's your okay, cool.
Yeah, it's my kids' names. That's whose names are here.
Dope.
And an old diesel watch that doesn't work. I've been
That's fire. I've been looking at that.
Wait, just put some benzene. In
yeah. And my rings are from all over, bro. Yeah.
Hell yeah,
Tight.
bro.
I like it.
So do you want to talk about Kanye now or later?
Whenever you want to talk about it. You guys want to hear a song real quick?
let's
Just
do
take a
that.
break?
Yeah,
Yes,
let's
please.
do it. Let's do it.
All right, let's peep it.
This is from the
What?
new album.
This from, is it going to play for the audience too or what?
Yeah.
Yeah? So I gotta pick which song to play. Hold
Yes,
on.
sir.
Is this from the one that you dropped, like the listening party?
Yeah, that's the one I played at the listening party. Yeah.
What's the hardest one on there?
Fuck, bro. Are you kidding me right now?
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to pick
You can
the
play
hardest.
two. If you,
What's
if you
your
can't
Stairway to
choose.
Heaven on there?
I don't want to play. I don't want to play like entire songs.
Yeah, just
So
Yeah, snippet.
so I'm gonna
little
play. I'm gonna
teaser.
play the intro
Okay.
and a bit of the first song.
Okay.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. How do you turn this thing on?
Narcy.
That's fire. I was putting it
When does
into
the
like
beat drop?
a different.
Yeah. So that's with.
I don't want the beat to drop.
That's with Red Veil, who I don't know if you guys saw what Red Veil did at Camp Flognaw when he did when he did a set. He had all the Palestinian children's names.
Oh
that
yeah,
were
yeah.
behind
That was
Oh
him?
yeah, that
So
was
this
him.
was the instrumental that was playing behind him when he did it.
Wow.
And Red Veil's a young artist out of PG County, Maryland. And the song, I didn't want to play his verse because this is the song that I want to put out
Got
first
it.
from the album.
Okay.
But
Amazing. So you got him on the track. This is next.
yeah,
He's on
and
the
the
next.
song is like a with the conversations we had before we recorded this song was like, multi-generational, intersectional community between Black and Arab experience, a struggle. You don't have to draw that sword alone. I'll draw my sword with you, and we'll fight together.
Oh,
So.
I see. That's what that was. Wow, bro.
Beautiful.
Powerful.
And you wanted to do a bar breakdown, so I'll break down
Yeah.
the bars of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Let's do that.
like
Let's do that
Genius?
next. Yeah.
I'll Genius break it down for you.
Bro, that's
So
cool. I
when I
remember
said
seeing that on.
The Salt Bay, line.
Yeah,
There was so many
That shit was hard.
oof moments.
I remember seeing dude on Flognaw though. He had the names of the shaheeds behind him. That was a powerful moment, man.
Yeah, my roommate went to Flognaw.
And was there for it.
Yeah, and she didn't know anything about Palestine, so she was like, "What is this?" Like he said, "Free Palestine," and I was like, "Yeah." I like explained it to her. She's like, "Oh, okay." And like sometimes, many times, music is the way people can be introduced to social issues, and that's a great, breaking point.
Yeah, it's a form of resistance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the
There's
question
a war in the
is,
streets, and there's a war in the Middle East.
Why does your roommate not know anything about
Yeah,
Palestine?
what the fuck, bro?
No, I mean,
Why
it's
they
just
take red pill to do that?
no.
at
Let's be
Camp
honest.
Fire?
90% of Americans didn't know anything about Palestine before October.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
It's a new roommate.
They might have like known
Yeah,
keyword.
it's your new
here or there.
roommate. You just moved in with that person.
Anyways, Kanye West.
Yes.
You like were teaching a course on him, or we're going to, or what?
Yeah, I taught a course on Kanye, and
because you're both Geminis.
we're both Geminis. We both love fashion. We both.
Make music.
I don't know Kanye, so I don't know what else he likes. But
What'd you think of the new album?
What?
Vultures,
Yeah.
you know,
Top 3 Kanye albums of
It's
all
not
time.
great, right? It's
top
not.
3 Kanye albums of all time.
I'm not saying it's one of them. I'm asking you your top 3.
808,
Mm-hmm.
Dark Twisted,
Mm-hmm.
and I really love Donda, bro.
Oh,
Yeah, Don does a good one.
I like the life.
I
of
like
Pablo.
pain, bro. I like pain in music, and there's a lot of pain on that album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened with Vultures though? Why did he? I mean, what's up with that?
No, I think it's just a new era, bro. Look, let artists be artists and express how they want to express. I just think like it's different. It's a different time now for Kanye. Like we're witnessing, you know, sort of somebody who has been torn down several times and by himself, but also by the system.
Yeah.
So like, it's greatly affected the journey that we're witnessing. It's tainted kind of
I see what you're saying.
the narrative. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So when I was teaching the Kanye class at the time, Donda had just come out, and it was about his journey. And you know, when I teach about an artist on a university level, it's not like we're going in and we're like, "Fuck, this album is so great. Let's." It's more like, what are the subsections or the conversations that these artists bring up.
Mm-hmm.
So with Kanye, the overarching question was the responsibility of the artist, the responsibility of the industry,
Okay.
the responsibility of America, and the dangers of fame. Like those were the overarching themes that we dealt with over the
Nice.
course of 13 weeks, right?
What year was this?
This was right halfway through my semester is when he started his anti-Semitic
No
rollout.
way.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
it was then. I don't know. I don't remember when it was. I kind of deleted it
I'm
'cause
guessing that had a bit of an impact on your course.
it had a huge impact on my life, bro.
Yeah.
But I'm not Kanye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I
you
mean?
were teaching the course about him.
Yeah, and it went viral, and it wasn't like I tried to make it go viral, and it
What
just
went
like
viral? Like a
the
clip?
class.
Wow.
Like
yeah.
somebody took a
One of my
recording or
students
something?
that signed up for the class put it on Twitter, and then the tweet went viral. I woke up the next morning and it was at like, I don't know how many thousand. And then like TMZ called me, and
no way.
everybody called me. bro.
Damn.
Even Kanye's team called me.
No
But
way.
why?
What? Yeah. What was it
They
about?
just like, tell us more. Are you going to talk about Pete Davidson? Are you going to talk about the divorce with Kim? What
Oh,
do you-
wow.
Like that's
So
what
you're
the
gonna be
press
new
wanted.
pop-
That's what-
pop culture.
oh, yeah.
I mean, you're a university professor teaching about
so,
Kanye West.
So
when
I
he's-
was like, no, my job is not your job. I have a responsibility to my students, not to Kanye.
Do
you
you-
know?
to
Yeah.
the literature.
Do you think that you can separate the art and the artist, or do you think it taints the artist?
I don't think you can separate the art from the artist, but I do think they are two separate things. In the sense that an artist's canon of work can be dissected and explored
Yeah.
on its own,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. You can dissect and explore the pop culture figure on their own. But what's interesting is the relationship between the two, and where again, it's back to responsibility, where the responsibility lies.
Yes.
You know, like there's rarely any artists that are famous that are responsible.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they don't go hand in hand. Industry and responsibility don't go hand in hand. The industry is meant to be exploitative.
Right.
You know?
I feel like I don't know.
Loop.
I've never heard J. Cole do anything bad, for example.
It's not about doing anything bad.
Or like,
It's not about doing anything bad. It's about. I mean, for me, it would be Kendrick would be the closest.
Kendrick.
who has used his platform to undo certain things for his specific community,
Yeah.
right? Whether it be about grief and dealing with like marital stuff or family issues, or there's been this like appealing and unfolding. Same with Kanye with his work in the beginning, but rarely when you become so famous can you rebel against the system that made you famous.
Yeah.
Because it will tear you down,
Then you just stop being famous, right?
I mean, Kanye's still famous, but he's infamous now.
Right. It's
There's a difference.
It's different.
Kanye is famous, but he's infamous for the things that he does and says.
Yeah.
So he can sell a bunch of shoes based off something he says that's extremely irresponsible.
Yeah.
And I think he has an awareness of that, and I don't know where he stands as an individual, you know?
Seems like he's gotten to I don't know. I don't want to judge him because, as you said, it's so hard to you judge based on the artist. But you know, I want to put a pin in that and come back to the art conversation. But what about Lupe Fiasco?
I was gonna bring him up too. It was one of the first CDs that I got was Lupe Fiasco.
He's a responsible, famous.
Yeah, but
Not on the same level.
Lupe doesn't lean on his fame.
No.
He's an artist.
Yeah.
So there are artists that lean on fame and not require it, but achieve a level of fame that's uncontrollable. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about Kanye, he married one of the most famous people in the world. And he was already one of the greatest, most famous artists in the world.
Yeah.
So it just catapulted him into a space where that shit starts backfiring on you if you talk the way you want to talk.
Yeah.
You have to be very meticulous in the things you put out into the world.
Yeah.
And Kanye is a quote unquote free thinker. He'll just say whatever he wants when he wants to say it, and you can at that level.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You gotta have a filter thought.
He was recently in the news. Somebody asked him about Palestine, and he's
Yeah,
like,
and he said, I don't know enough.
I don't know enough. And then he goes on to say, I got like 14 kids dying every day in Chicago.
Yeah.
I was kind of stuck in there.
That was a cop out.
Right, it's a cop out, but at the same time, it does bring up that idea that we also have a lot of problems here too.
Yeah, no, not what he said is a cop out, or what he articulated is extremely important with what's happening in Chicago and in America in general to black youth, right?
He could have said free Palestine and what's happening in Chicago's.
Yeah, but I think the position that Kanye is in, I don't think he can say free Palestine anymore.
I mean, you said enough, sneak in a free Palestine. That's the least anti-Semitic thing you can say.
Yeah. I think I think with what I learned with teaching the Kanye class, and the way I approach my teaching method is that it's also a learning process for me, right? The reason I'm studying these artists' canon of work is not only for my students, but for me to understand why these artists have been greatly influential on me. So Kanye has a huge influence on me, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of us, and it's like, why? If it's been irresponsible, and it's very hard being a Kanye fan and being constantly disappointed, but at the same time wanting to wear his shoes and listen to his music and be influenced by his sonics and his world and his visual nature and all that, it's like, why was that? And what I learned with Kanye was that Kanye, just like Michael Jackson, was a great example of what fame can do to somebody's mental health and race. If you look at Michael Jackson as a metaphor, what happened to him and what happened to his skin,
the whitewashing,
is the story of America, is the erasure of black culture as it rises. With Kanye, he's, and this is, a theory, but he became a metaphor for American culture, for pop culture, where, you're a black man who has achieved the power to be in the room with these white men that at the end of the day will never treat you like a white man, as much as you scream at them that you want what you want.
Right.
He's obsessed. He's publicly obsessed with sexualization of himself and of women, which is something that we learned in Orientalism is a great part of the representation of the black and the brown, right? So like there's certain
what is the over-sexualization?
The over-sexualization of men and women, the fetishization of black and brown bodies, while at the same time rebelling against the system that is putting you up. And at the end of the day, he's a hyper-capitalist, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the main thing we've noticed, or the theme that we've noticed is, there are some things that he said that helped us, some things that actually set us back, some things that set back his own career. And then at the end of the day, it benefits him selling as much product as possible in order to keep that empire living. So really, he's a metaphor for America. So if you criticize Kanye, he's a mirror to this country, just like in another way, Donald Trump is a mirror to this country. In another way,
of the
other
class.
side, of the same class, but of the other side, the other story, right? And that's why Kanye aligned himself with Trump.
It's because they're Geminis.
Wait.
They are Geminis. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's at a level.
It's funny.
If you're talking like theoretically speaking,
Yeah.
they represent hyper-capitalism
Right.
and power.
Yeah.
Do you see that shitty shoe that Trump just?
Yeah, the January 6th.
It's $20 on Yeezy
like
right
that.
now. Everything is $20.
Yeah, and look, I love Yeezy product. I love the stuff that he put out and the design element to it, and some of the things he said were very influential on many of us. And he also, just like Eminem, kicked down doors, and he had a very responsible era.
Right.
And I think another thing that we learned in class was that the public grief that we experienced through Kanye losing his mother in public, and the non-acceptance of that this man is grieving, ended up leading to where we are now in the story. And it's unfortunate because, like, if we loved on each other at the right times and we held each other down at the right times, then we would make each other better.
Yeah.
And Kanye is, at the end of the day, the journey is going to be very influential on pop culture.
Oh, yeah.
And we can talk about these things now before artists are dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I do these classes.
Yeah.
I did Kanye, then I did Kendrick, and then I did Chappelle and everybody around Chappelle, and the community aspect of hip hop for the 50th anniversary. And now I'm doing Spike Lee in class and the films that Spike Lee shot and what they mean to us.
Type. Yeah, with Kanye, I feel like, he is a fallible man at the end of the day, and kind of ties into the Matrix conversation and the back and forth, the pushback y'all were giving each other. It's like at the end of the day, he is within the Matrix. So even if he chooses to put on certain responsibilities on his back, you can only change so much within the system itself. So
yeah, and listen, bro. At the end of the day,
he's still the capital.
He hasn't articulated things in the best way.
Yeah.
In the wrong moment.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to is a lack of clear responsibility.
Right.
When I walk in a room or when I get on a stage, and that's my role, I'm not imposing that on anybody else, but I think about my audience. I think about who I'm talking to and what I say to that audience.
Yeah, you're clear.
Because I have to.
Yeah.
Because I exist in a slippery slope.
Right.
If I was at his fame level, God knows how slippery that slope is.
Right.
And then you have to be very careful. And he's not very careful.
Your life is constantly under scrutiny too.
Yeah.
Like you can't walk outside without somebody shoving a microphone in your face or your camera. It's like, and he wasn't ever, as you said, he's never been allowed to experience the trauma and the grief and seek help. Nobody's actually helped him just to help him.
Yeah.
I don't think.
It's like while trying to break the molds.
Can we take,
take a break?
We don't usually do this on podcasts, but can you take a bathroom break real quick?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Sure, yeah.
The earlier song that you allow us to keep in the
you can keep my verse in
but
there.
I'm saying, like,
when it comes out, I don't know what'll happen.
Okay.
Yeah, so ahead.
I think you have to
I have to whitelist you guys, or you can buy the rights to using it.
Okay.
We asked for a donation.
It's not
of
coming.
the rights
It's not
at
coming out
this
any.
time, my brother.
I'm not putting out any music while everything is going on right now. Like I'm kind of just gonna hold this stuff until the time is right.
Oh yeah.
No, not even a ceasefire, bro. Until
Ceasefire is not enough, man.
Yeah. Until I don't know when I'll drop. I don't know when and how it's gonna drop, but I want to be mindful. If I do drop music, it'll be in collaboration with people for the people, but it won't be my own. Like
I got a question about that because I'm trying to navigate this right now, also with dropping stuff with since I got this distro deal with Empire, and I want to take advantage of the opportunity that I have before me, but also obviously I'm inseparable from the suffering of my people. So, on one hand, I think that using my voice to speak out, to be a witness, a firsthand account of the suffering that's going on. And on the other hand, obviously I don't feel compelled or motivated right now to really go out there and do a lot of rapping and singing and shit like that.
There's a fine line because, for example, I think my mom has mentioned this a lot. It's like another way to win is to become successful yourself too.
Right. Part of it is that.
And to beat the system. If you are silent during these times, that's kind of what they want you to do. That is kind of what terrorism is to make you be scared to do anything that you would normally do. So yeah, there is a navigation of what the difference between celebration and, exposing and propping up, for example.
Is it more powerful to be silent, or is it more powerful to speak up right now?
I mean, look, bro, I think you have to ask yourself that question. It can't come from anybody else. I silenced myself in the beginning of the genocide 5 months ago, because I got extremely overwhelmed and I wanted to just focus on prayer.
Yeah.
I wanted to focus on what I could do as a spirit, not as an artist.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was so different this time. It wasn't a revolution. We've put out music for January 25th in Egypt, or we've done music for Syria, or we've done music for Iraq, or when there were revolutions, and to speak to the people. But right now, people in Gaza, I don't think are on Spotify, bro. I don't think they're on Apple Music. I don't think they're trying to listen to music necessarily to that capacity. We are showing them that we have solidarity with them through our online presence and our physical presence in the streets. But as a Palestinian, I would never tell you to not put out music at this time, because we need the Palestinian voice to not be suffocated. And I'm not Palestinian, right? I'm in solidarity with the people. So
I consider our Arab brothers, yourself.
I consider myself Palestinian in the sense of like I stand so in the struggle, and I've been doing that my whole career.
Yeah, you have.
I've never faltered on that. That's just that's a red line for me in my career.
Yeah. Like I said, you inspired me.
Thank you, bro. But I don't think, right before it happened, I was about to drop my song with Chappelle and everybody, and I pulled it. It was dropping the week that it started.
Yeah.
And I pulled it, and I was like, I'm not putting out any music. And there are artists that have put out music that are, like Eliana put out a song, and it was very important.
Yeah.
Visually, and what she was saying was very important.
Right.
Abdul and Saint Laurent just put out a song, and it's very important.
Diro.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good one.
So it really all depends on if you can handle it.
Yeah.
That's where it comes down to. I don't want to be too promotional right now.
Right.
It's a very weird time to be promotional, to sell product.
100%.
Like even with our bookshop, what we did is in October, we shifted all our attention to Palestine and stocked all books by Palestinians about Palestine and sent all those profits to where it needed to go. We took an L that month because we're all taking an L.
Yeah.
So, it's all about utilizing your platform how you can afford to.
Right.
And because you still need to sustain your life.
What about like sales from albums and proceeds from that?
Like he just said, you need to sustain your life. Do you think it's a difference for...
Let me just...
Go ahead.
That's what I meant.
I think
that
these platforms are not paying me enough for me to make any dent in.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm giving UMG and Sony and all the co-owners of Spotify and all these places, the people that invest into them and own stocks in these, I'm giving them more money than I'm making, even if I don't have that many streams. So, but a guy like Anis just put out his live album, and he's sending all his money to Palestine.
Yeah.
So and a song is about to come out that I'm featured on that has an element of that. And they put out mixtapes on Bandcamp, like the Olive tape that I was on that raised money for Palestine. But I'm not going to personally go out and be like, yo, Narcy's back. Here's my new joint. Like, go cop that shit. I don't feel like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to fall back and wait for the right time to drop my music,
Yeah, man. Do you think it's different for someone who's established versus somebody who's finding their footing, finding their voice, and establishing their presence?
No, you just got to use your platform, whatever it is. And you guys are using your platform right now. Yeah. You're interviewing people from the community, and we're having these conversations. Yeah. Nobody else is, bro. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nobody else is having these honest, critical conversations about media literacy and injustice. And who is? Joe Rogan's not having these conversations.
Right.
You know,
Like,
even if
that situation in
yeah,
Palestine is
it's
insane,
mind blowing, bro.
bruh.
Like, no, that's not how we should be dealing. And that's fine. That's his role.
Right.
And he
But
has
he'll
a
go
huge
and do this
platform.
other side.
But Joe Budden hasn't said shit about Palestine.
Yeah.
And Joe Budden is rage against the machine.
Right.
You know,
Joe Budden, not Joe Biden.
not Joe
Yeah,
Budden.
Joe Budden.
And you know, you could tag their whole team on this if you want to
Yeah,
get it to
yeah.
that place.
Right.
But like, I'm a bit shocked, and it changed as a fan of the podcast, it changed my perspective a bit because it made me realize, oh, you're gonna talk against everything else, but not
Except-
this.
Yeah, it's disappointing, man. It's really disappointing to see.
You know, so
Even
It's out
Van,
of
Van-
fear or not being
I'm not
knowledgeable?
gonna assume. I'm not gonna assume, and I'm not gonna drag a black man who created an empire for himself.
Right.
After all these years, who went through the ringer, and it's amazing what Joe Budden built, and I would never want to do that. But I think it's disappointing.
It is.
For somebody who I know is against injustice in terms of like. He's always spoken out against all the things that the industry has done to artists. He's spoken out against what happens to black people in America. But there's like a red line around Palestinians and Arabs that we can't even talk. Every time they skirt around it. I've heard
man.
episodes where they really just skirt around it, and it's like, bro, you could say free Palestine. There's absolutely nothing wrong
Right,
with that.
right.
It would actually make us feel seen. You know, which is something he always talks about for artists to feel seen. So
Right.
yeah, you know. So again. Everybody is doing their work, and you guys are doing your work this way. And if you put out music, then you know you do it the way you think is the right way to do it. And I would never tell you not to. You know.
Can we actually? I mean, maybe it's better to show you than to hypothesize or to talk about how I want to do it. Can we show you the song that we just are planning to redistribute to Empire?
Yeah, it's audio
It's
or
on
it's
Spotify. Yeah,
it's out already.
yeah. Well, I put it. It's crazy, man. The story is a little wild.
It's the most halal story of all time.
What's the song called?
It's called Open Air Prison.
I mean, there you go already, bro.
Yeah, yeah. But man, I put the song. I wanted to say real quick before I say about the song. Van Lathan is another disappointing one. He's
Get the fuck out of here.
yeah, bro. I mean, I met him and I seen him in.
Theo Von even was better
Theo
about
Von
it than
spoke
all
up.
these people.
Bro, I met Van at a Grammys. At the Revolt Summit. At a red carpet, and I told him I'm Palestinian, and we had a connection about Palestine, and he said he expressed his support for us in just between me and him conversation, and then seeing the way he's using his current podcast has been very disappointing.
Why won't your organization engage in peace talks with the Israelis?
You don't mean exactly peace talks, you mean capitulation, surrendering.
I watched the
Why
video
not
after,
just
brother.
talk?
Yeah,
That kind of conversation between the sword and the neck.
Oh, you literally used the sword in the
telling
neck.
you. Come sit down. Have this ready. I said produced it.
From the river to the
He's
sea,
co-produced it.
we'll all be free. Put the fire out and save us.
Can't talk peace, they got a sword for a tongue. Take our peace and trade the whole for a crumb. Stay at ease and never soldiers succumb. Smoke from their guns, block the sun and fill our lungs. Siege our streets and leave our homes overrun. Overreach 1,000 souls just for one. In due time we'll send them back where they're from. When it's won they'll be stunned by a merciful run. Free my people living in an open air prison. Hear the frequency of freedom if you dare listen. They spitting daggers at your neck, you better go and miss them. But a deaf ear can never hear the wrong rhythm.
See their faces in the smoke. Hell is lying in ruins now. Bodies piled up in my feet. Only love can save us
They making baseless claims and invasive bases. They try to take the reins, now the rain's evaporating. We'll regain our plains, won't remain in occupation. We're facing blatant racists taking place of ancient natives. They confiscate terrain, they displace our graziers and make us take the blame somehow for their displays of hatred. And for our lives exchanged, they'll remit inflated payments. They'll trade a single soul for thousands more in failed exchanges. Take calculated aim and maim spectating populations. Them children came to play, they left with their remains in cases. faces? Who's left is there to blame? Who's making reparations? Who's serving justice to the families and consolations? Whose life is worth the most? Whose life is overrated? Whose people misinformed by tainted statements inundated? Whose stories never told? Whose stories make the papers? Whose media controls the narrative and whose news stations? I need some answers now before I lose patience. This here is getting out of hand. Wallah, it's so outrageous. Whose confirmation bias? Who let your shekels bias? Who told you you can come and kill us and watch us dying? Who made you gods on earth? Who made you gods at birth? Who promised you a sacred nation you can claim by force? Who wrote your holy scriptures? Who sent back your Messiah? Who told you you could come evict us cause then they were liars? Who's guaranteed salvation? Who's wrong for proclamation? Declared your covenant with Yahweh has been consummated. Who has such authorization? Who dare disobey him? Who hides and mixes truth with falsehood? Who other than Satan creates an alienation by a nation's alienation and weaponization of another's trials and tribulations? Whose holy pages are these traitors plainly desecrating? Whose second coming are your saviors impersonating?
Fire, bro. I mean, right away, you know what I mean? Yeah. You wanna finish it? Let's finish it. You wanna finish it?
Yeah, you can hear
another verse?
It's like a chorus, bridge, build up.
Yeah, I think like you're already using your platform responsibly, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So I mean, there's no reason to hold back, you know?
Yeah.
What do you say to artists that have dropophobia?
I don't blame them, bro. I don't think Palestinian Eminem. I see what you did there. You know, I think that I have reservations around dropping music on DSPs. And, you know, so here's one of my best friends, and I always have this conversation with him where I'm like, the disappointment of dropping music in these spaces into like a vacuum is very disheartening for our artists.
Yeah,
but
man.
you know, you got to be ready to drop your music, bro, because a big element is being promotional. Depends what kind of artist you are. Like me, I view myself as an artist. I'm not just a musician. Like I like art, high art.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So I like to position my music in a space where I'm selective about how I perform and where I perform. I did the rap shows, I did the open mics, I did all that shit in my 20s. Now it's like I want my music to sit in a specific place, which is why, you know, even when I get asked for placements, it has to be I have to be very mindful of where my music is being placed, you know? I've had moments where my music was placed in the wrong place and I wasn't happy afterwards.
Yeah.
You know?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
TV shows, movies?
No, none of the TV shows, because the TV shows, my music lives within our community, and it's very like what Rami and Mo did for me. Putting my music at that platform helped me a lot, and at the end of the day, they listened to my music before they met me, you know, and became my friends.
Yeah.
So it was a natural thing, and it came directly from them. It wasn't like some executive that hit me up and said, "Oh, we really want," you know. But my music has been placed in film and all types of stuff. So. Anyway, I think dropping your music is based on the artist's needs and, you know, defining what they want out of their music.
Yeah. The story about Empire was that when these boys have been bullying me into taking the step and, you know, finally putting my music out. And as you said, I had reservations. I didn't want to put it to deaf ears. I didn't want it to a budget. I wanted a strategy, a team. And alhamdulillah, now we got it. And then finally, with this song, I wasn't making music. I was in a bit of a rut, just mentally for various reasons. And then, you know, they started attacking us, and Asad was like, "Man, you should write something." And I hadn't been writing music, and so I struggled. But I sat there, and for the first time, I don't know if you have this experience. Like usually, it's flow of consciousness, and you're writing, and it's effortless. Or you're just not, and so you're just not trying to write. Is that your experience, or?
No, me, I went through different phases as an artist. You know, I used to write a lot and then go to the studio and record mad bars and like and then it became more conceptual.
Yeah.
You know, so I would go in and write conceptually.
Right.
Then it became I write in the studio, and then it became I don't write at all. You know, I used to do bar for bar.
Yeah.
Which some of the joints on my album were done that way. And then now it became in the moment.
Okay, really? So you're
For me, it was the best, like in the not freestyle, but like
line by line.
Write it in the moment, or go to the studio when I need to go to the studio and have something to say.
Yeah, yeah.
And then just let it go.
Don't force a studio session.
I guess that's what I'm saying, right? Like it's either coming out flow of consciousness and you don't have to, it's effortless, or you're just not recording.
And it's a muscle, man. Writing is a muscle.
Yeah.
You got to read to write.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of conditioning. It's like a gym.
Yeah.
The studio is a gym.
Right.
You know? So the more you go to the studio, the better you get. The more you make music, the better you get.
Yeah.
You know? And if I look back at the first songs that I did when I was 18, I was a completely different artist than I am now.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You can tell just by the articulation, by the the careful picking of what I'm saying, you know?
Man, what you just showed us, right? You could feel even more of
With
an
Sword?
evolution. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with Sword, it was like, you want me to do the Genius breakdown right now?
Yes,
that verse?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could.
that'd be
We
great.
could. But all I was saying was it's effortless. Usually, you can't force good writing.
Yeah,
right?
no, you
You
can't.
can't force it.
And I have a lot of music that doesn't come out, bro. And it's like, it's and some of those bars end up on things that do come out. you know?
Yeah. But this was the only time when I forced myself to write, and it worked. Because I forced myself to be like, nah, I have to say something.
was therapeutic.
I have to
You
use my
needed it.
voice, right? Yeah, and like you said, if we don't have this channel to channel like this anger and this frustration that we feel, like you would implode on yourself. Like, like you said with the Iraq War. But yeah, I ended up writing this verse.
And as a side note, the original like skeleton beat that I made, because I started dabbling into
Such
it.
a producer, Doug. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, I taught him how
when
to
I
use
put them
Logic
snares
like
out, yeah, I mean.
3 months ago.
When I put that sample
Yeah,
in
you
there.
were saying,
He
sorry.
finessed that shit quick.
Yeah,
He's a natural,
I
so.
had the beat, the OG like just like guitar line basically was super Eminem vibes to me, like old school, just kind of like again, as we said in the beginning, like nostalgic. And he's been always, everyone thinks he sounds like Eminem, so I think it just kind of was it worked. And I kept playing him the beat, and I kept telling him he's got to write something to it. And he literally came back randomly. He's like, he pulls into the garage and he goes, "Yo, I got it." And then the rest is history. So
I think what's important, bro, is in these moments that we don't become artists that are utilizing these moments to become bigger artists. There are some people that came out of Philistine that became internet celebrities because of Philistine. And in that, they juiced that.
Right. It's despicable, bro.
And again, I'm not going to publicly drag anybody from our or shame anybody in our community right now.
Yeah.
But it has happened.
Yes, it
you
has.
know who you are.
Right.
You know, and there are people who are from outside our community that also benefited from the attention that they get. And the problem in some of that is, and I'm not speaking about anyone specific right now, but the problem in some of that is you got to do the knowledge.
Exactly.
You know, when we go out, if you put me in front of a Zionist bestseller, I'm able to hang with that person and debunk what they're saying.
Right.
If you put me on a round table with anybody on the news at this point in my 40s, and after all the knowledge that I've done and all the reading that I've done and all the talking points that I've faced, I'm able to debunk them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the things that they're saying about us now is not new.
Yeah.
They've been calling people like us anti-Semitic for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
They've been calling anything Palestinian to be alive since since I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, in this moment, we can't be selfish.
Of course.
It's the responsibility of the artist to utilize their platform. And it's not the responsibility of every artist.
Right.
And whoever is the artist that doesn't have that responsibility needs to fall the fuck back right now, or just be themselves and not expect anything from us.
Facts.
Right?
Facts.
So that's...
Yeah, man, it's a different conversation, bro. If you started like J. Cole said this in a different light. He's like, I got a rule. If you never posted an artist when he was alive, you can't post that shit when he dead.
Yeah.
If you never talked about Philistine on a track, bro, and now you want to come out, if you don't have the knowledge like you said, then it's a different conversation.
It's okay to talk for I mean, someone like Kehlani wasn't necessarily an ally. Maybe she wasn't quietly.
Yeah.
Or let's not take Kehlani, but like Macklemore.
Yeah.
You know, Macklemore didn't have the knowledge.
Right.
But what Macklemore did was surround himself by the community.
Yeah.
And he didn't say a lot publicly.
Yeah.
He said free Palestine. He stood with the community.
Yeah.
And now at his shows, he's waving the kafiyah.
Right.
But he's not making large speeches.
Yeah.
And using just the surface talking points
Right.
to further his career.
No, he's really in tune
He's
with
actually
the culture.
kicking his own back in.
Yeah.
So like, again, that's a good example.
Yeah, 100%. I'm saying, by the way, not for non-Arabs, for like mainstream celebrities. Like the more they say Palestine, the better. To be honest, because we need all the representation we can
Not
get.
really though. That's also slippery.
If it's with the right intention.
This episode should be called Slippery Slope.
Slippery slopes with Narcy.
But also because celebrity is problematic, bro. I don't give a fuck how many people sign ceasefire letters. I don't care who comes out and says, there's a because none of it worked at this point.
Yeah.
It was important when it started,
Right.
but now we realize none of it worked.
Yeah.
It's like I don't need a banner with freaking Iron Man and whoever and Jason Momoa and freaking I don't care. It's not going to do anything for
Right.
us if they're not really lobbying their power.
100%.
There's a difference between utilizing your platform and lobbying your power. And I think what a lot of artists from my generation did is we started lobbying our power and speaking to people in the background.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of artists that came out and was like, oh, let me use my platform.
Right.
Then there's artists that developed a platform and are using it for their own benefit.
Right. That's the part that's really just
That part.
Yeah, man. You got to be rooted, man. You got to have your roots in order for you to be able to come out and say. You can't just come out of nowhere with no knowledge and no good intention.
And you got to have knowledge of self and critical thinking.
And that.
And knowledge of self is not a priority these days. You know?
Facts.
I think that's the true name of this podcast.
Knowledge of self?
Yes.
Knowledge of self.
All
The
right.
slippery slope episode.
Knowledge of self, a.k.a. slippery slope.
Right. Yeah, man.
But the slope is up.
Yeah.
Did you want to do the genius breakdown?
You want me to break down my verse?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Sure. So that the song "Sword" is obviously influenced by Ghassan Kanafani and what he said.
Isn't that crazy, bro? That we
Yes,
we both did the
subhanallah.
same
I mean,
in a
that's
way.
beautiful. I think
Yeah,
that's a beautiful
it's
thing.
Beautiful.
And it was the last song that I recorded for my album. I was in New York and I heard "Kitchen Lights" by West Side Gun. So I hit up my producer Sandhill, one of my producers, Sandhill, one of my brothers, and I said, I want something like this, sonically speaking. And he sent me this sample. And he had sent me this song years ago with drums.
Okay.
But I told him I want no drums to open up my album. I really just want heavy bass and a emotional sample.
Yeah.
So he sent me that. And I was in New York, in Empire Studios in New York.
Nice.
Yeah.
And, I talked at Arrogant TED Talk live from New York, United Nation, Arafat headscarf. I was wearing the Arafat headscarf at the time.
Hell yeah.
But also that, to pinpoint that cultural moment for us.
Yeah.
Download this message on your desktop. There's a spy in your Tesla, right? So really saying that, like, even in our technologies, we're being observed and surveilled. So divest from the rest. I said what I said,
BDS.
and I've been a big proponent of BDS for a long time, and I started Musicians for Palestine with a couple of other artists, Stefan Christoph and Nicholas Jar, right? So BDS, I said what I said, because they churn our baby's bones down and they sell it as Exxon. So really, like, witnessing what they did in Iraq and how, like, that even when we pump our cars with this fuel that keeps our technology going and traveling around the earth, that pumped oil is actually our ancestors being reused to funnel through cars. So when you think about the diabolical spiritual nature of saying they went there for the oil, they went there for our ancestors, to burn our ancestors, right?
Like you're saying, erasing those pillars of civilization, of the Arab civilization.
My martyr's breath, spray the musk, assassinate Elon. So, going back to the Tesla, and I said this before Elon came out and said all that and went and stared at the cribs and with Netanyahu and shit. But I'm saying my martyr's breath, spray the musk. They were saying that when the martyrs were dying in Palestine under the building, they were smelling like musk.
It smelled good.
So I spray the musk, assassinate Elon. It's a double entendre, right? Because this whole industry is like CENTCOM. And CENTCOM is the central command center that they used in Doha against the Iraqis, like where the Americans were, right? So,
Wait. Say that one more time. I missed
So my martyr's breath, spray the musk, assassinate Elon. So my martyr's breath.
Yeah, I got that.
I spray the musk like assassinating Elon, right? Because Elon is not one of our heroes.
Right.
Because this whole industry is like CENTCOM.
Spray the musk, essentially.
Yeah.
But what about this whole industry is like what? I'm sorry.
CENTCOM.
CENTCOM.
CENTCOM was Central Command the Americans used in the Iraq War.
Okay.
Right? So it was the surveillance hub for what was going on in the war in Iraq, right?
And
So
CENTCOM.
CENTCOM. Oh shit! I didn't even think of it. So there you go. See?
No way, it's a quadruple. Yeah.
So what a wonderful world with a dysfunctional swirl. Beautiful struggle, ugly compassion. Right? Like the two sides of the coin. There's that beautiful struggle that we witness, but there's this ugly compassion that a lot of people pushing countries to factions during corporate luncheons and rations. Right? So like even during these corporate lunches while people are starving, like we witnessed today, where they shot our people going out there to get flour, right? Corporate luncheons and rations, because it's generation I can't get no satisfaction, right? We live in a generation where people are never satisfied, you know? There's abundance and there's sanctions.
Yeah.
But let's stop, because this shit is tasty. Yes, let's stop. Yummy. I splash shorties like a crash test dummy. So cunning, just give him the money. That's capitalism. It's
We
sex
gotta
and
give
money.
them a little bit of the...
But that I'm saying, like,
Bedazzle.
what they're telling me to do is stop thinking about all the shit that's happening in the world and focus on the pleasures of life.
Right.
You know, the sex and the money.
Yeah.
But this man is Shutter Island. Your brother's wild, and Shutter Island was the movie about with Leonardo
That
DiCaprio.
prison.
You can't reach me anymore. I burnt that bridge like Rummy.
Like who?
Rumi?
Rummy. Donald Rumsfeld, who was with George Bush, part of George Bush's cabinet, who burnt
Great guy, by the way.
Great guy, by the way. He's dead. But he burnt all the bridges in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
No, he's a
During the
horrible
war,
guy.
they
He's a
bombed
horrible
the
guy.
bridges so that his company, Halliburton, could get the contract to
build
rebuild
them.
the bridges.
What the fuck?
So I'm saying, like, you know,
Burnt the bridge
and
like
at that time when I wrote that song, I had gone through a couple of things in the background where people had disappointed me, and I cut them out of my life. So, you know, you can't reach me anymore. I burnt that bridge like Rami. You know, because sunrise in the east, 3 times, sunrise in the west. So this sun will rise in the west, but also the sun will rise in the west 3 times, and it's sunny. Embrace heaven like a shaheed. And they say, you know, one of the main alamats of Yom Qiyamah is when the sun rises in the west.
Right.
3 times sets in the east, right?
Yeah.
3 times in the sunny. Embrace heaven like a shaheed. Live from Yom Qiyamah.
That is
War crimes on your feed, right?
Yeah.
live from Yom.
I heard that somewhere. You put a snippet of that somewhere, right?
I did an acapella
Did
version.
a cappella.
War crimes on your feed. I don't play the game like a ref,
Oof.
right? So I pulled the race card out on Wolf Blitzer, right? That's why if you put me in that position, I'll pull a card out on a Wolf Blitzer like a journalist.
Yeah.
I'm a rap misfit, but midwick in the sense that like I love fancy shit.
Yeah.
But I'll still fucking destroy you with the bars, you know?
A rap mystic, but mythwa.
I read Dua Lipa Faith, so read Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa.
Right? Read Dua Lipa
out
Faith,
Dua
bitch.
Lipa.
It's kismet. Take everything with a grain of salt like Nusret.
Ah,
That's why you suspect. And I don't trust nobody, man.
man.
Yeah.
So really, it's like thank you. It's like the context of my record. It's like this like overarching theme of what it is to be an Arab.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated, multi-emotional space. There's these like feelings of gratitude and feelings of anger. So that verse is really like the gist of my album.
Yeah, I like that a lot, man. It's a loaded verse.
Can't wait to hear it.
It's a loaded verse.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, man.
It's one of those albums to listen to, like actually all the way through.
I'm hoping it comes out in May. You know, inshallah, we'll see. We'll see what goes on here.
Barred up.
All right.
Are we done?
Any other announcements?
Not necessarily. We got till-
No, I
we
mean
got
we
till
didn't talk
3.
about the bookshop, but
Yeah,
we got
let's
till
do
3,
that.
bro. We got 20 minutes still, 15 minutes.
it's up to you guys. You want to keep going?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about the
we're good.
bookshop. It's
Origin story.
Oh, the bookshop?
Yeah. What's your favorite book of all time?
Oh fuck, bro.
Keep this open for him.
Or it's like a book that everybody should read. You know, one of the.
There
either
isn't
book.
one book,
Okay.
but I mean definitely the Quran. Definitely the Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Definitely representations of representations of the intellectual by Edward Said. All About Love by Bell Hooks. The Power of Now.
Power of Now.
Untethered Soul. There's another one that I'm not thinking of right now, but There's so many books, but I own a bookstore.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
this,
And
and
yeah.
our bookstore is curated mostly by my wife, by Sundus. But
Nice.
I also curate books that are, and then obviously we've overlapped and read similar books as well.
I want to read The Power
Hassan
now.
kind of funny has some books too.
Hassan kind of finally got mad books, bro.
Yeah.
Mahmoud Darwish got mad
I
books.
want to read some of those.
So, the bookshop was just an extension of our artistic practice. Sundus is a visual artist and a writer, and she published her own books at first, and then she got published. Her book called Take Care of Yourself, which was her master's thesis, actually, got published during the pandemic. And I wrote my first book in 2009, and I self-published it, The Diatribes of a Dying Tribe, which was my master's thesis as well, which came with the album. And
Nice.
books have informed our practice. And we always collected books at home. It's one of our prizes. Like, I collect albums and
Yeah.
CDs and books and magazines.
Yeah.
Print is such an important part of our career.
Yeah.
So and Sundus always wanted to open a bookshop. It was her dream to have a bookshop, but not just like a bookshop.
Right.
yeah. Like
So
curated.
but also for it to be an art project.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way we see Mektaba is very much like it's an art project. It's a living, breathing, growing, experiential thing, which is why now we're doing pop-ups. We don't want to expand necessarily and
Like franchise.
our
Yeah.
shit, and we want it to be like a destination location that you go to.
Yeah.
But then we come to your city and we bring you things that are curated for
Right.
you in your city.
Right.
So Mektaba is our like brick and mortar. It's our space where I like funnel all my design, because I design too. So all my design work goes through there. All my merch work goes through there. My album is gonna come out through our bookshop. So
Dope.
yeah.
You guys did a pop up. Speaking of pop ups at Between East, that's
Yeah.
where we met, right?
Yeah.
With Lena from that was a cool setup.
Yeah,
So
man.
Just
So that
wanted
was
to
our
shout them out.
Yeah, that was our first US pop-up.
Oh, yeah?
So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
That was a cool event, man. Right?
Yeah, it was great. It was
the
great
whole
to see all our people together. Yeah.
Right before this, you were at another kind of club too. What was going on there?
What do you mean?
The Reparations Club.
I went to
quickly,
Reparations Club,
Read
yeah.
about that.
What is that?
Reparations Club is a black-owned, woman-owned bookshop in Inglewood, right? It's
Yeah,
Inglewood?
yeah.
Oh, it's close.
It was by where you
It
live.
was Crenshaw.
It's in Crenshaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to go there, and it's like a sister space to us, and it's and Mektaba is woman-owned. I don't own it. I co-own it.
Right.
But it's really Sundus's vision and
Right.
her shop. So like
What does it look like?
you
Does
can,
it have an Oriental vibe to it?
no, I mean we got a place in Old Montreal. Edward Said would be very disappointed in you
Orientalism,
for
bro.
saying
We were just
Oriental,
talking
bro.
about this.
Okay, but we have a majlis in there, and we happened to find a place that had arch windows that was built in the 1800s
Nice.
in Old Montreal, or the late 1800s in Old Montreal. So we have a very distinct location in the city, right by the water, by the port, and right in front of the square where they signed the Great Peace of Montreal between the Indigenous and the French. It's literally facing our store.
Amazing.
So like we're an intervention even in the area that we exist in the city, and it's big up to Sundus for creating it, because it's really a one-of-a-kind space. Like there's never been this like curated Arab-owned space from our generation. It's also hip hop.
Yeah.
Like the element that I add
Narcy
into it
in
is
there,
hip hop.
yeah. That's beautiful, bro.
So yeah, man. I urge you guys to come visit us in
I
Montreal.
would love to, man. Sounds amazing.
Little tiny desk concert. In there
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Tiny Majlis.
Have him read Edward Said's book.
Yeah, yeah. But you definitely got to read Orientalism. I'm gonna send you a copy.
Because that word they used it against us, basically.
I'm just kidding.
Well, we're taking it back. So
In a sense.
That's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Don't even don't
It's
open
a can of worms. It's a can of worms.
Yeah, bro. So, everything is kind of part of the story. And I think what's great about having a bookshop is realizing how important books are.
It's really lost on this newer generation, I feel like. I feel like
You'd
we
be
read
surprised, bro.
books.
Go on TikTok right now and look up Book Talk.
Book Talk, yeah.
It's
yeah.
insane.
it's all just a bunch of romance novels.
No,
Oh,
actually,
really?
it's not. It's a bunch of people really like, and books don't die, bro.
Gen Z is very informed,
Yeah,
bro. They're
yeah.
very, very informed.
Maybe it's our generation.
Yeah.
America has a very contentious relationship with Islam, bro.
Yeah.
Because Islam is. They fear Islam because they don't understand that we know, that we don't.
But I'm not practicing Muslim or even Christian or anything. I'm learning as I go, and
We're working on it.
yeah,
You take a shot at that right now? You take a shot at that?
every
He's not
episode,
ready. He's
somebody
not ready.
there's
He's not ready.
Just say it with me. Just say it with me.
I
You
got
gotta
you, bro.
mean it. You gotta mean it.
I mean, Islam recognizes Christianity way more than Judaism, right?
Islam is all encompassing. Islam is all encompassing of the prior faiths.
Well, Islam is like Return of the Jedi or whatever. It was the last one.
Yeah.
So it looks back upon the other chapters in acceptance,
Right.
Yeah.
and then Christianity in turn looks back on Judaism and
Right.
acceptance. It's not that Judaism doesn't accept these two religions; it's that it came first, so
Right.
it set the precedent for all the other ones to exist.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, in general, I don't think that the Jewish community doesn't accept Christianity or Islam. Bil'akis, I think that the majority of Jews that I know are the interfaith and the progression of the religion is very similar. I just think that Islam is like it has to include Judaism and Christianity in the story because it's like it's a continuation. It's a clarification.
Right. Right.
Everyone is a chapter that clarifies even
Exactly.
deeper the eventual mission of returning to God.
That's why it's so outlandish.
The
when we're
recognition.
called
I think what I meant was
anti-
more like the recognition of Jesus as a figure.
I mean, they talk about Jesus in the Quran.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Islam recognizes Jesus more than any other.
Yeah, but Muhammad wasn't around when Christianity was written and became a tool,
Yeah.
right? Muhammad came after.
After, of course.
So, but the story of Jesus existed when Muhammad was around.
It was
right?
written in the Quran.
Yeah, so I think like it's a natural progression. I think like what you're trying to say is the indoctrination, or I'm assuming, but the indoctrination of this systematic way of thinking that we exist in, and the institutions that keep this upheld trickle down to both the prison system and the education system. And I think we're starting to realize that these things are outdated.
And there is, Talal said this many times, like we are all cousins. Like this division is manufactured.
Yeah,
we
of
are
course.
supposed
More
to be
similar than we have different.
Yeah, when people start talking about Palestine and they say that it's a Jewish and Muslim thing, it's a way of
Division.
negating anything that you might
Right.
want to add to make that relationship stronger.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, what's happening in Palestine right now is hindering not only Palestinians, but will eventually hinder people of Jewish faith all around the world as well. Israel is a danger to all of us right now around the world.
Don't they have a Samson protocol where if they're gonna lose, they'll use their nuclear warheads?
I mean,
That's what it's called.
I hope not.
Look it up. Look up Samson protocol.
There you go.
I mean, there's
That's the Joe Rogan
there's
part
the
of the
Samson,
podcast.
There's the Samson.
Jamie,
there's-
could you?
Jamie, could you look up the Samson protocol, please?
There's what's the other one where the Hannibal?
No, that's the
Ha-
Samsung
Hannibal
protocol.
the Hannibal
Yeah.
directive.
Brought to you by Samsung Protocol.
You were saying that
green text.
America doesn't know about Islam. The fears that we know, they don't know that we know. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we know who we are, bro. We have a deep knowledge of. We have a deep knowledge of.
Oh, sorry, Samson option. That's what it is.
We have a deep knowledge of our. We have a deep knowledge of being able to bow to the ground. That we're powerless. That we're really in this world. We're only slaves to Allah, or that we're na'bud rabbna.
Yeah.
So I think that's what scares them, is that we have the ability to be humble enough to put our heads down to the ground and to stand up to the oppressor.
Right. Because it means all must be humble
Yeah.
under the one,
So is that why you think that?
including them,
Yeah, they're not humble.
and they're not. And if
Hard
we-
to be humble when you're stunting on a jumbotron. You know what I mean?
yeah, right. But Allah will humble the most.
Do you think that's why America, was presenting this disinformation about Muslims and making us, be the bad people? But like now, they're kind of letting us in.
I think the Arab world and Africa is the future, bro. And for lack of a better word, Arab world.
Yeah, both of them.
The Arab world and Africa was the past, and it's the future. And they wanted to slow that the fuck down because that makes them the past. And
Well, they want we have the most abundant
But
resources.
also to
and-
slow us down, like you said, so that we're always a couple steps behind. You don't, the
It's always about
electricity system.
Yeah, I mean, they extract our resources. They come and wreak havoc, so that they can stay in power, and we
Yeah,
stay.
but that can't last forever.
They churned our babies'
Bones
bones
down
into-
and they sell it as Exxon. Yeah, that can't last forever, bro. And it's unfortunate that not everybody can be on equal playing grounds in the game. But the world is changing, bro. The world is changing around us. The climate is changing. The political system is changing, and that's what we're witnessing. Even COVID was a symptom of that.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, inshallah khair, all you could do is just like keep your head down, look out for the people around you, listen to Habibi House, subscribe, follow the YouTube page.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
Just gotta be
Perfect
more
play.
united. We gotta be more united.
The Arab world is making a comeback. You're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, absolutely.
There's a whole
In a
podcast
big
about
way.
Arabs needing to be more united.
What's it
But-
called?
No, we could do a whole episode. About that.
Yeah. I mean, this is coming from from straight from Iraq. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
man.
it's
We're
not-
the OG. We're the
lest
OG
we
version.
forget.
I speak for my ancestors.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
sir. The message is heard.
Ancestors
brother.
are very, very talented. You know, the history, like
Your ancestors over there, like, bars.
Baghdad, algebra and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Khawarizmi.
Khawarizmi as a
No, I mean, it just even back then, like Iraq, Baghdad, like was just such a flourishing place more
yeah.
than the
It
rest of the
still
world.
is, bro.
It
Yes,
is,
it
and
is.
but it got
Yes, it is.
a little bit of a setback.
Yeah,
but
I mean, they,
we're
you
here
know,
to tell you, visit Baghdad this
Go to
summer.
Baghdad. I don't work for the Ministry of Tourism, but
I really
go
want to go
Baghdad.
actually.
Listen, we got 2 minutes. Can we show you a snippet of this? Because I know I said we really wanted
Absolutely.
to.
Should we do a wrap up though?
Yeah.
Should we wrap it up and then
Yeah.
watch it?
Rap.
How do you guys wrap up the pod? No, I'm not saying let's rap. I don't rap. I don't rap anymore.
I don't rap at anybody but Sway.
This has been exactly. This has been Slippery Slope.
Bye.
Knowledge of self. Habibi House.
Yes, sir.
Bitch asses, go subscribe, man.
Narcy.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Let's
Yes,
go.
sir. Appreciate it, man. Come on. This is legendary.
Legend.
What a conversation, bro. But yeah, play that. I mean, we can.
50.
Man.
So you're gonna re-drop it?
Well, I'm gonna re-release it. Just through the distribution channels.
Nice. What did you put it on? TuneCore. Oh, it's 3 p.m.
Oh yeah, what I was saying is that I hadn't dropped anything in a long time, and I finally dropped this after the whole thing when I had to force myself, and then it came to me when I wrote something that I felt proud of, not in a forced way, because I had to force that natural flow state, which usually doesn't happen. Like you said, you either feel it or you don't. And I finally dropped this. First time in like years, and then I got the distro. I had missed an email, the reason he was jokingly, from Sohail.
Nice.
2 months earlier.
Do they distribute your pod?
No. But
They don't do pods?
we've talked about going up there to do the podcast in their studios because they have with the new
Ozzy and everything?
yeah because he has a new studio that they just built for the podcast. But the irony or the funny part of the story is like I literally had when I finally got myself past the threshold of all right, I'm gonna put something out there.
You found
I found the email the day of, bro. The day it finally landed on TuneCore.
We met Suhail before at the Ileana concert, and he was like, "Yeah, I know about you guys." I'm like, well, "Wait, how did you?"
Yeah.
Sahel knows everything.
Bro, it was like our first episode though. We barely had. He was like, before you turned your mic on, when you turned your mic on, said the first word, I had known about y'all. We're like, shit. He recognized us. It was crazy.